clear on the roof. Heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafters Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here. So drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
clear on the roof. Heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafter's Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here. So drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin's...
PCS 7 is officially here. It is time for the top 16 teams across APAC to battle it out and ultimately Saga get themselves a spot at PGC, because that is what this is all about now.
It's the end goal for every single one of the teams here, and a lot of them have made a lot of headway earlier in the year. When we look back towards PCS 6 and the teams that were participating there, a lot of them not returning this time around, a lot of fresh faces in the lobbies that we're going to be seeing over the next 2 weeks, and a lot is on the line. Everyone competing for that spot at Dubai towards the end of the year as well, and it's so realistic for any one of these teams. It's all to play for.
Yeah, and I think one thing that puts APAC apart from other regions is we've been talking so much about PGC points and how, okay, this team needs X amount of points to be able to qualify. A lot of that now, Saga, has been thrown out the window. There are some teams that are unable to qualify just due to the fact that they haven't made it, but also it opens up so many possibilities, and points kind of go out the window. Everyone just wants to win.
It really is a case of anyone who's playing in this lobby could walk away with it, and the people who aren't, there is very, very select few who even have a chance of qualifying, and there's there's a lot on the line. There's nothing they can do about it. Unfortunately, not able to make it to the finals, but this is our schedule, of course, right now. Today, Friday the 16th, APAC, and later on in the day, Americas will be taking place over the next 2 weekends, and then we're heading back over to Asia and Europe the following 2 weeks to round out every single team that will be participating at PGC at the end of the year.
And here is the overview of today. Of course, we're operating the Super Rule. 16 teams over 6 days of 5 matches. We're going to be playing 3 Erangel today, then heading over to 2 Miramar. That's going to flip round tomorrow, flips over again, and I think everyone knows the deal by now. So it's going to give us a bit of variety, but at the same time, tonight is the chance, I should say, for those teams who really shine on Erangel to show exactly what they're worth. And it's really important because look how much cash is on the line. $80,000 for first place, and remember 30% of all of those sales are going into the revenue share, so it's going to boost the crowdfunding even more. So if you want to get those skins, get them, and just give those players even more to fight for.
We've been shouting that out for the past couple of weeks, really.
I'm just getting it out the way now.
Items. And also the sleek, sexy McLarens. We'll just throw that one in there for fun. But no, really, it is not at all an insignificant amount of money. And bearing in mind that the distribution varies a little bit from region to region. Out here in APAC, first place is a significant margin higher than second place and the rest. Plus, you have all of the additional prizes like MVP, most kill, and all PCS team as well. And this is what else is on the line. Of course, the prize money is nice, but the real prize right here is those PCS slots. And of course, first place at PCS 7 gets a guaranteed seed. There is, of course, Day Trade, who's already practically locked themselves in with that with the guaranteed slot, just from the amount of points they picked up from winning PCS 6. But that guaranteed seed could go to literally any of the teams participating this weekend.
And I think a big thing to note as well is that every team is guaranteed at least 10 points from qualifying for this. So that has already changed the way things look. And then when we go in a few days' time, I'm sure there's going to be a significant change if we were taking, say, the running totals and the PGC points. There's going to be so much to talk about. And I think there's even a couple of teams that are almost already out of it.
I mean, look at that top 12 that was just up on the scene right there. 6 of the top 12 teams are not participating this time around. The teams that performed well at PCS 6 were not able to carry it on through the qualifiers to make an appearance here. So a lot of the fresh faces that we haven't seen in APAC before, the likes of E-Arena, Shai Guedui, Origami Orangutans, they really have a very solid opportunity now to stack up those points and make it to PCS 6 off just the back of this event alone.
I'm really interested by a squad that you just mentioned there, and we'll talk about it later. But before we do that, we have to talk about the Twire Fantasy League. If you want to get involved and you want to compete in the Fantasy League, make sure you go and sign up, because you pick a player, you get a certain budget, and each time that player gets a kill, completes over 100 damage, or wins a match, you get points. Remember, though, if they're going down in the first 10 minutes, you will be losing points. Here are all of our picks, and I can't help but notice I'm the only one who didn't choose Monty. I feel a bit bad about it.
Look, man, we stan Monty in this house, but we also stan Shen, and I honestly can't believe that we're the only ones who picked Shen. What are the Australians doing? They're trolling. Like, how can you not pick Shen for 23k? The kid is an absolute monster, and yeah, if you haven't got him on your team, I'm disappointed in you, really. But honestly, there's so many very solid choices. Every single one of the Vietnamese players was so incredibly cheap this time around. Look, Clories for less than 20,000 is absolutely absurd, so we really can't knock Elfish Guy for locking that one in. But there's so many good players individually cracked all across the board throughout this. It's a very, very difficult thing to pick your team. But you know what? I'm happy with my roster. I hope you're happy with yours.
I'm second guessing it because I'm seeing a lot of faces there that I regret not picking for the price. But honestly, like, I think it's going to change a lot next week. I think Shen is going to be maybe the underdog player for a lot of people because that guy is cracked. I mean, it's even up there. Of course, it's Nurens that is the most picked. That guy is so consistent, but it's about finding that balance with this, isn't it? Of those really impressive players for a cheap price. And it looks like 10% of people have agreed with us on the front of Shen.
I was honestly expecting closer to Norin's numbers for Shen. He's globally renowned as just a maniac, but Haisaki, no surprise whatsoever. This is one of the players who was in the second place team Vietnam at Nations back in Thailand only a couple of months ago. Big contributor on the points and the kills as well, so no surprise to see him up there. And Clories too, as we've already mentioned him. Insight and Monty neck and neck really in 4th and 5th place, so a lot of support for the Aussie boys in Team Bliss, the one that has pretty consistently since the disbanding of Fury made it into PCS and placed relatively well and are looking pretty solid to be one of the teams that walks away with that PGC slot with the points they've already picked up at PCS 6.
I mean, Bliss are one to watch, especially being the English stream. A lot of people are going to be here rooting for them, and I can't blame them. But at the same time, there are so many impressive squads. The other OC squad I kind of want to touch on has to be Origami Orangutans. A lot of names that we'll be familiar with in the past. I'm not saying it again because I'm going to butcher it. But they're a squad where we've seen quite a few players in the past. When we look at Kang, I think, as far as I'm aware, he is relatively new in the grand scheme of things. But
he came out
he's
of nowhere.
put up some serious numbers out of nowhere. Yeah, there's been a few players recently who've been able to do that.
Yeah, he just completely apparated on the scene out of nowhere, and then immediately his first season qualified alongside Senjo for PCS. You've got Rip and Akita making their first time appearance. Rain has been here in the past as well, so a lot of experience across the board, and particularly the Vietnamese teams. There's only 3 players across all 5 Vietnamese teams who have not participated in a PCS before, so that experience will come in huge. We expect big things.
Yeah, I mean, look, we touched on Shagway Dewey. I think that's how we're going to go with it. We're going to butcher it.
SGD.
I've asked multiple times. Yeah, let's go with SGD. We've touched on players, specifically Shem from that squad, a few times now, but I think that they're such an underrated roster considering they've got players who have been around for the longest time. I'm excited to see what they can do, and potentially if we get into a hot drop in game number 1, we're kicking things off over on a Wrangle. And, well, you're the drop master. What can we expect to see in the early game here, Sarg? Anything spicy?
It's interesting because TE, every single time they've been at a PCS event, they've been hot dropping Pachinki against Attack All Around, who didn't qualify. So we thought maybe this time around they get Pachinki for free, but no, SGD has publicly announced they were happy to fight for it, and TE, those stubborn team that always is willing to take that fight and never wants to give up on Pachinki, has actually been scared away. They've gone up north, taking the drop spot of Unicorn Phoenix, who failed to qualify, up towards the school and apartments. We weren't expecting any hot drops to come through, but it looks like the flight path has forced an alt drop from FTF, normally heading up towards Lipovka, and this could be an early engagement between themselves and the orangutans.
Trick is going to be able to get down first and get himself a barrel, a scar, everything he could possibly want to take this fight. But honestly, it looks like the orangutans are going to try and get out of here in the vehicles. Easier said than done. Sprays like that, but thankfully out of the way. It's not going to be made easy, though, because of course, the first circle of PCS is one of the most awkward ones we can get on a rank.
Yeah, pretty standard, but fantastic news for the returning 2-time champions in Buriram United. They've had a little bit of time away from the top level of competition, and a substitute brought in since Godmeow announced that he was taking a break or even potentially retiring long term, but they've brought in a huge replacement in Chek Singh, previously of Magic Esports, who's had a lot of experience in PCS himself. Ninja so incredibly low, as they are still very, very close to Genius Esports, and Genius being the resident Rozhok resident Rozhok owners, I guess,
Resident?
in Vietnam.
Yeah,
sure. So they want to scare away TE, make sure that, okay, unfamiliar territory for them, they're not getting too close. One thing that I did notice out there on the map as we were looking at it as well, E-Arena on the Western Bridge have 3 teams dropping on the military island. You've got Team Bliss, Icarus Cyber, and MS Chomburi, all on the military island. MSC should be easy enough to go over the East Bridge, but for the other 2, if they opt for West, E-Arena are so deadly on bridge camps. They are actually a large part of the reason why Attack All Around failed to qualify, because every single time there was a Millie Island in the Thailand series, there was a ton of them. Every single time, E-Arena was just fully wiping Attack All Around before they could get over the bridge. So I'm a little scared for Icarus Cyber this time around.
And a big thing that I think we forget a lot of the time is a lot of these teams, sure, they played against each other, but there's going to be that element of have they played against each other at this level, if that makes sense. The teams will really be doing anything that they can at this point. It is the last-ditch effort to make it to PGC, so it wouldn't surprise me to see a bridge camp. Whether we see it in Game 1 and that kind of sets up a story of things to come is the real question, I think. I think it's a matter of time until we see it, but it's just a question of when. That's the big decision. PMA, this is a team that I'm interested in because when I saw it pop up, seeing Mr. Clay back around was very nice to see. And a lot of names that personally I'm not super familiar with, but I know that they have been able to put up some serious fragging power in the Challenger Rumble.
I'll tell you, that man on your screen, Teddy, I'll tell you who is familiar with that. SGD, he was a member of that team not too long ago, competing in PWS East Asia and actually outplacing some pretty incredible teams like Donuts USG, Danawa, even Gen G back in the day. But he was removed from the roster when Sophia came in, made a couple of changes, brought in Jervis and Leo from the East Asia region, and well, it's not so much of a bitter rivalry, but definitely a friendly rivalry there between the two teams of PMA and SGD, both Malaysian representatives, and it's been a long time since we've had a single Malaysian representative come through Challenger Rumble in PCS, probably since back to PCS 3, where we had Battle Arena Elites. So it's great to see not one but two coming through, and both looking incredibly strong as well.
Absolutely, I can't wait to see the kind of momentum they're going to bring in. No kills already. It's interesting to see.
APAC.
I think, yeah, I was trying to put it a bit more nicely, but yeah, it's not very APAC. We usually see teams getting very aggressive early on, and I want to know like where that balance is going to come between. Okay, this is our usual play style. This is what works, but there's also a lot of on the line, so we can't really take as big of risks. Cerberus, this is a squad that I picked as one of my favorites. I'm going to put it out there right now. Recently, they've had amazing performances, and I expect them to carry it on. We'll see. As Icarus Cypher, well, they're going to be opening up with some shots onto MSC on the rotate. As he mentioned, MSC able to make it out safely, but who knows? Icarus Cyber could happily try and set up a bridge camp of their own right now if they have a good read on exactly how many squads are on the other end. But as MSC move away, they should be able to make it across pretty safe and not too much to worry about other than finding a spot inside a very contested zone.
Yeah, they surely know about Team Bliss down towards the military island. EA, it actually looks like, is not looking to set up a bridge camp, but it was enough to force Icarus Cyber in the opposite direction over to the East Bridge instead. Team Bliss still has to worry about getting across themselves, and with two teams crossing over the East Bridge, and I'm not sure if they're within range of hearing the shots exchanged between the two, but it might be on their mind that there is a potential situation going down on the Eastern Bridge, but it looks as though things are going to clear up. But down towards the center, typical Buriram fashion, look at Nordra, right back into the action, right back in APAC, and already they're split so far with a four-way one-man split, holding down four separate compounds that all hold very, very good prospects for a late game in a circle like this. If it does continue to go around that mini power area, they're going to have to regroup quickly because there is so many of the teams around them, the Expendables, PMA, Cerberus, they're all very, very happy to identify and punish splits early on.
I think phase 2 is going to be the biggest decider of how many people actually die, because if that circle ends up pulling up to the northwest, every team kind of has to reposition onto Lumberyard Hill, which, I mean, everyone is posted up for a reason. They're expecting it to go around Mini Mill to Power, but if we look back to the EU Last Chance qualifiers and the EU elimination stages, we saw this circle a couple of times, and once or twice of those, it ended actually pulling up to Lumberyard Hill, and a lot of teams didn't expect it, so they have to be careful, and I think that the teams that can anchor up there, but also plan out a rotation path, are going to be in a very good position. As Shen, the player that we've hyped up so much, careful, man, I got to keep my points on my fantasy team.
Yeah, and Nordra, he's been out of the game for a minute, but there's a reason he's up there as one of the top picked players in fantasy for Buriram in particular. He's still just as sharp as ever. Headshot on Shen, leaning out the window of the moving vehicle is all that it will take. There's a bit of an engagement up north on late rotations. T5 and FTF both coming from Georgia Pole, north and south. And Teddy, the man with the new upgraded PC, big FPS, but all it is going to be seeing himself getting taken out by Rosseted JR in cleaner definition. But now we've got to give a shout out to Gunnar and Shrimsy for putting together that community little bit of a fundraiser to get Teddy back up and a better PC after he told them that he was playing on 30 FPS at home when they met at Nation. So that's a little feel-good moment, but that's not the feel-good start to the game that FTF was hoping for.
Yeah, they are not happy right now. Gunnar and Shrimsy, they have put together that PC and, well, game one has just kind of gone out the window for him. But look, still plenty of more chances to make that one back. Day Trade actually going to be coming very close to E-Arena, but should be okay. Swinging up to the north instead. I'm not sure whether either of these teams actually want to play farm or whether it's just a symptom of the zone and how contested it is around Milta and the Milta Power area. Teams are just having to scrap their way in on the side. But on kind of the inverse to that, Saga, Day Trade are one of those squads that really do sometimes do a very good job of controlling an edge and clearing out if it comes to that. And I think that even with a circle like this and being one of the last teams to make it in, they still stand a very good chance of putting up a lot of numbers. As that was a close one there from the orangutans.
In day trade, if we think of PCS 6 and recent performances in APAC, definitely the team that is dominant, that has filled in the gap left by Buriram and BN United after they were both so dominant as well. Looking for a third consecutive back-to-back winner in a PCS event if Day Trade can do it and take that top spot this time around as well. But it's really strange that a team that drops all the way down in Primorsk is the one that dominates the lobby, but they play the edge so incredibly well. We said typical APAC style. We were expecting about half of the players to be dead by this point, but Day Trade has sort of maybe changed the meta a little bit. They play very slow, control the edge in a really good way. It's similar to what Fury used to be doing as well when they played on the edge, spreading wide, getting that information, and just holding onto their areas while everyone else just full sends it into each other in APAC style. But that's not happening this time around, but maybe on Phase 2 we'll start seeing some of it.
Well, we'll see as Phase 2 pops, it cuts a lot of that water out. And Saga, I mentioned that Lumberyard Hill. If you're a team in this lobby and you've seen, okay, this is already pulled pretty central, should we be concerned? I'll tell you who should be concerned, though. It's going to be E-Arena, because another headshot coming through onto a moving vehicle. Kang tries to land one of his own with the bolt. Doesn't have too much success, but a bit of damage with the M4. Sophia is one of the first to fall. Lakita gets it, and in comes the headshot. Down goes Patrick.
Oh, Akita lands the shot. Kang flushing him out with the bolty on the back end as well. That's our second death of the lobby. It was Ninja 2K who actually found an angle with another bolt action up on towards Sophia at the top of the hill. That might signal a push. The Expendables are not a team who will take a push lightly, and once they've got an initial knock, that opens the door for it. But this time they're playing just a little bit more cautious, playing a little bit safe, and not wanting to go full send early on. They know that their PGC qualification is on the line. They are one of the few Vietnamese teams here this time that already have some points on the board, and they really want to not throw them away.
Soyatui coming up over the hill. It looked like Shen maybe heard the vehicle. Is the only player really getting aggressive off of this. Needs to be cautious the way he takes it. Monty and the rest of Bliss, though, throwing caution to the wind as they're just going to be playing the beach. I mean, they've got a decent ridge line, and I don't think they're too concerned about rotations as Archangel Predator. Well, they certainly are, and rightly so. Rossitid goes down as Canaxi attempts to third-party. Mad Dog pushes over the rocks, but as we mentioned, Swagger Tui coming over the top. Shen waiting with the SLR for an opening as he just doesn't want to get involved too early. Wants to really third-party this effectively as he sees the player still. He is happy to take the shot. CJ falls, and, well, Mad Dog able to return the fire. Shen backs off of this, but follows up with a nade. And with this hillside and those rocks, Saga, I'd be a little bit concerned if I was AAP.
Yeah, I'm just imagining Swagger 2. He is like a French chef rat with like a gold chain. No, yeah, I think we'll just go with SCD for now. But that is making good use of the high ground angle. Archangel Predator holding the rocks, but having lost one earlier on at the hands of Monkey. And it was a clean double headshot onto Rossitid JR as well. A big target as well. That is maybe the danger man for T5, the most experienced to say the least. He's been a winner since, the first Thailand series back with Tokyo Striker, so a big name removed from the board, and also a very big presence with a bolt action sniper rifle as well, so they'll be glad to see him gone. But just a little bit too many third parties coming in, just thankfully out of nade range, so the flush could not come through. Archangel Predator cling on to life with 3 still standing on the side of the rocks, and Buriram still holding their split somehow. Delta Nick just rocks up with a UMP, and Rip is just kicking himself that that's not him.
The rest of Monkey now trying to move up the hill and get a bit of an off position. I really don't know. I really don't know, Saga. The UMP and the M16. But look, it worked. Are you arguing with the results? He's getting a kill off of it, right? I mean, from the future, get a point on the board, and, well, that puts them all the way up to second place. So, I mean, it's got to be a good setup.
Very good setup still for SGD this time around as the zone has shifted back towards that lumberyard. And look who it is who has practically full control on the western side of zone. We said they play it slow. They inch their way forwards and take a lot of space all to themselves. Day trade now on the opposite side of the lumberyard can creep forwards to the hilltop. A couple of teams they will need to hold out on the northern side of the zone in Genius. But they're currently occupied with holding the fort against FTF and potentially Monkey. Origami Orangutans when they start to make a move, but there it is. Clories, just a quick, clean little spray. That's a headshot trick out of the equation. Delta Mix trying to answer back with that UMP, but it's Clories with the double headshot again.
Genius putting in work early on, and Zest looking to continue that trend. He goes for the long-range barrel spray, finds actually a little bit of damage. Can he convert it with the SLR? It appears that his chances are getting slimmer and slimmer. Well, man, he's just going to have to get some distance to keep his squad alive. It's not the way that you want your game on to go, but at least he realizes his other side is free, and maybe it'll give him a bit more of an opening. But in such early stages of the game, to see a circle like this that's so contested and so few spaces, it's no surprise that teams like MSC are just driving around looking to see where they get shot from more than where is free.
Yeah, MS Chonburi, it's a team full of veterans. I mean, Jiaoman all the way back to PCS 1, where they picked up the win under Q Confirm alongside a couple of others who would be recognizable as names of Taco Round, who were unfortunately not able to make it, just like Mirage, unfortunately not able to make it all the way to the garage. Zizzy with the long-range headshot with the SLR. That's a big loss for Team Bliss. Mirage, he's already picked up a couple of knocks in the kill feed this time around. They haven't been able to convert any into points, but he's really already dishing out the damage, but that has come to a swift stop at the hands of E-Arena. Pink-on-pink violence.
Origami Orangutans looking to set themselves up to grab a couple of points. They saw the movement from Deraton 5, but unfortunately Rain has really failed to find an opening as of now. It's the rest of the squad just playing the cliffside, and it might just have to remain that way, sneaking in. Because Deraton 5 do not want to expose themselves. They realize how precarious of a position that they're in, and I think they also know that if they get a player knocked, they're probably also going to be getting crashed, and with so many teams around such a tight space, it's going to be tricky. It looks like Rain, though, wants to throw out those smokes, and the crash will come through. Genius are happily waiting for this one, though, as they want to try and third party shortly.
This is all the smokes that Monkey have, so they need this to work. Otherwise, they are really in a tight spot. Those pre-nades not quite finding any damage onto Teraton 5. Exquisite, one of the young academy players for them, tosses out a pre-nade into the smoke. It goes the wrong way, but actually, it was all an elaborate ruse from Origami Orangutans. They smoked them up, getting them prepared to defend a crash, but they've just gone the long way around. Unfortunately, the zone has not gone their favor, and Dayan from long range hits a shot on Rain just before he can get around the corner. He copped a lot of damage on the way. One more tap with the SLR is all it took to sit him down. It's stolen away by Ranger X.
Saga, I don't know about you, but I love this shift. Seeing teams have to fight through those Miller fields is one of the most exciting things to watch. Yeah, it is horrible,
Sadistic.
but whichever team comes out on top, you know that they're going to be in first place by a considerable margin, because it's just naturally going to come with a lot of kills. And it looks like Monty is trying to find the first of those for Team Bliss after taking Mirage earlier. Minus points for me. Let's hope that Monty can stack some up for everybody else with that SLR. Just trying to find the headshot, but he is pinned at these rocks. And well, Cerberus, they're looking to defend something of their own as Pete takes down Xiaoman. It's going to be Cerberus who follow up with a second nade, and I'm sure a whole lot more. Izaki moves around the side. Julio's caught on fire, and just like that, MSC are down and out. Cerberus
T5,
getting points early on.
Well, the vehicle's gone. Patampong gone. Ranger X sat down as well. Exquisite, minimal health, but it's Nordra is there. He's on the angle, still in that position. Boriram, they did regroup their split somewhat, but it gave him a perfect position to finish off T5. That's our third team now eliminated as From the Future, picked off by Big Man Insight as they tried to find a way around the western side of the zone, but there was nothing doing. Up towards the northern side, SGD now under some pressure as their position on the eastern side of the lumberyard is just barely being shifted out of. They can hold on to about half of it, but there's two teams in AAP and Genius Esports trying to close the distance and find a way in.
Genius are going to try and be the first to do it, as Clarice already with 2 kills on the board now, with only 15 HP. The nade comes close to Mad Dog and does a little bit of damage, but as he repositions, he'll narrowly find himself a little bit of cover. Zone continues to push, however, and it looks like SGD also want to get involved with the third party. Insight goes down for Bliss, as now they're down to just 2 players. Genius opt to hop in the vehicles, and they really have 2 options. They crash or they go for a wide rotate, and with the way that Clarice is hanging out the side, I think they're going with the former. Jervis with the spray, just needed to land 1 and it would have got them a knock, but as Simon's taken down low as well, you've got to think Genius are facing some real trouble. Levies, Vanny, both taking down a player apiece. They're instantly flushed out. Utah falls. It's all down to Zest. He's crashing into the Wizard Tower, but Archangel Predator, well, they are just pulling up behind him and more than happy to sponge up the points. Day Trade, however, do third party onto that rotation though, and well, Zest, that should be the end of it. Archangel Predator clean it up, and well, they keep at least a player alive.
Just barely. A couple of, if anyone was watching the EU qualifiers, very BBL-esque maneuvers from both teams, just full send it straight down the middle, lost a lot of players on the way, but Archangel Predator just barely cling on to a central position, and they can just prone their way up to some decent placement points from this position. Team Bliss tried to make a move down on the low ground through the Milta fields, but Icarus Cyber, holding onto the north side of Milta, just farmed them for free as they made their move. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get any closer to the top 8 or a central position. Cerberus, on the other hand, have managed to make it all the way through, and it's another M16 that's putting pressure onto them from PMA down in the compound to the south, but that rock is big, gives them a lot of cover. They just need to be careful of teams creeping up into nade range from their west.
PMA must be pretty positive about this one right now, because they are stacked up in what is really the only strong compound to work out of, and for having hard cover, they are very central to the zone, which is something that most teams don't have the option of. E-Arena make their rotation, their options limited, and Mad Dog's even more so. Archangel Predator down to a solo as Sophia and Leo try to move in themselves. Ninja takes one down with the bolt, but it is stolen away by Sophia. Only 2 points on the board now for SGD, but as they look to try and grab a couple of placement, it might change things. Nurins is spotted, though, by 777, and Expendables get themselves a relatively easy knock onto a heavy hitter squad.
Wasn't quite prepared for the angle, and I don't know how that didn't flush him, but he will be going down. The rest of the team now just hopping in their vehicles, trying to close the distance, but they need to find a way in. They've got the dirt road to work with. Sophia knocked underneath the car by Canaxi from range. Buram coming right back into the thick of things and really just picking up where they left off. Back in second place already, 3 kills on the board alongside Cerberus and New Generation, both of whom made their way towards the zone. New Gen is just down to the solo, though, so they might not be able to pick up too many more. But look at the kills across the board. Very balanced across all of the teams. Barely anyone went out without a single point. Only MS Chamburi on a bit of an unfortunate crash with some third-partying from PMA coming in. But there's really not much space to work with now for any of the teams, and the next shift is going to take even more of it away. Hopefully for a lot of teams, it goes away from the Milta fields, but if it goes towards it, we're really in for a banger.
Day Trade doing everything they can with these nades. They're finding the damage, but ultimately it's the 3x spray from Belmoth to take down the first. Actually finds damage through the smoke onto a second as well. As frags follow through, it's going to be Flash who just sends it in. May actually end up running someone over if he's not too careful. Goes to the seat swap. Importantly, misses the spray, however, and that's going to be the end of Day Trade. The all or nothing play ultimately amounts to nothing. Circle shifts again as the Arena try their best to salvage. The nades come through. Cerberus fully focused onto holding every squad out. The Expendables look to do the same. 45 seconds Saga to make a move, and it is brutal for so many squads. I think they should be thankful, though, that at least the field, isn't it?
Yeah, that's maybe the silver lining here for everyone other than maybe Icarus Cyber, who were occupying the shack, and with that gone, they're out of options. They have to hop in the vehicle and just send it at whoever's closest. It's E-Arena, and one picked up for Cerberus, the other for E-Arena up towards their northern side. But now they have to make their way into the zone from the west. You've got 777, Duck Juice, and Ninja 2K all staring them down, and Cerberus can't third party at all just because of the big rock formation between them. So Arena, they might have squeezed out a placement point, but I'd be surprised if they could get much more on the board. We have to give a quick shout out as well. Lyrics is in this time around. That is Flash's twin brother. So we know that if anything genetic is going on there, he's a pretty cracked demon time player as well. But it looks like his options might be very limited here. But maybe they can get an extra point because Monkey are just making a big wide wrap around the side. Rips. Uaz is going to blow up and leave him completely stranded. He's actually got rid of the hay bale as well. That's all his cover from Arena gone. But it's Tycon, another young player from Cerberus, who will get him with the headshot from SLR.
Cerberus are putting in absolute work right now.
Big
Still
shift.
standing with 4 players up as the shift will happen very shortly. Everybody has to try and send it into the center. The Arena getting peppered apart is the Expendables doing a big chunk of that damage, but you have to think Cerberus are going to try and sponge it all up. That's exactly what happens. I mean, at least Duck Juice will be able to get himself a point on top of that. Just 1 minute remains. 777 looks to throw out a nade, but holds it. If only he knew just how perfect that would have been. Maybe it has a bit more success than his teammates, but unfortunately not quite far enough.
Got the high ground to throw the grenades, try and roll them down. It's very difficult for Cerberus to try and dislodge TE from this position, and the zone is not giving them any favors in that regard either. TE still holding on to the trenches up north. They have full control of the northern side, absolutely no one able to contend with them. Maybe just PMA has to try and land some long-range shots, but I mean, they're still working with M16s in the compound, being slightly squeezed more and more every time the zone shifts, but they're eventually going to run out of space, maybe have to try and send it into the dip just alongside Cerberus and hope that they're not just immediately greeted with a hail of grenades.
Circle getting ready to shift as well, and it'll really decide a lot for these teams. If you're a squad that's out on the edge, you're going to be in real trouble when this one pops in. It comes, and well, Expendables are actually looking really confident with that. I'm not sure whether Ninja
Look at him on the
is going to
roof.
commit to the reposition, work with the rest of his team, or whether Levies is just going to kind of anchor solo, or whether they're going to stick together. So that'll be an interesting one to see, because they have to bear in mind this team off to the east that I'm sure they're aware of. They were taking shots over at SGD earlier on, but see if they're able to convert. Edie looking out for any movement. He knows there's vehicles, so Bruce should be able to make something happen out of it. And it's Clay, unfortunately, will be the first from PMA to take damage. He should be resable, but with 20 seconds left till that zone moves, PMA need to think about a concrete plan, and quickly.
Yeah, not much really to work with, but they've kept the vehicles safe and the tires unpopped, so they can at least shuffle their way forwards. But again, it's grenade range for Cerberus if they have the utility remaining. Well, not really so fortunate. The only play that they can really make is either inch forward or just send it and try and dislodge CJ from the Wizard Tower of Archangel Predator. But check sync can't get into the vehicle in time and actually goes down to the blue zone, hands over the free flush to Leo as well. Levi's almost trying to find the angle, but 777 up on the position on the roof of the Wizard Tower at the top of the hill. That's just one of those positions where if you're in this game, you're like, how is no one punishing that? How is no one shooting him? But just nobody gets the angle on towards it. But it's going to be such a pain in the butt for all of these teams that have to creep their way forwards. He's going to have angles on so many players. Sophia spotted out, though. He will go down. Eddie, the trademark 3x barrel, makes light work of him, but CJ pops up out of the window and wipes him out. But not before PMA completely obliterated as they try and cross the road.
So brutal for them, and it puts the Expendables into an even better position than they already held. Cerberus now don't really have to worry about their rear. It's only Buram that are going to cause a problem for them. Obviously, Archangel Predator being a solo, that's kind of a non-factor for a lot of these teams. 777, though, such an aggressive position as Edie goes down to the zone. Buram start to face some real trouble. Canaxi also to fall. CJ looks to hop out. I think he knows that there are going to be Buram players closing down, and he needs to start making a move soon. 777 almost steals it away, but CJ does manage to scrap out those points. That's 7 on the board for Archangel Predator, and they are just looking for any placement on top of that they can. Audra,
Oh,
the final
Tycon, watch
player,
out.
pushing down the hill. Tycon knows, but he hasn't taken any shots until he's got the opening, and there it is. Baram out in 4, and Archangel Predator have got to be happy about this, considering they were down to CJ from such an early stage. Expendables, though, even happier as they get to remain in the high ground with a couple of decent rocks below them for cover.
Oh, we said when Archangel Predator sort of backfilled the crash of Genius at the same time, actually came out, just survived that a little bit longer. We knew that they were going to get themselves some placement points. They've actually picked up 5 from this game, so that is a huge boost for their standings. It's very unlikely that they're going to get anything more from this game. Now, 2 teams of 4 to contend with. He will just about be able to lurk on the edge of the zone, but angles from all around. He's really not going to be happy about his current standing in the zone itself. Cerberus, 13 kills on the board. And now, oh, CJ has actually got a big knock onto Duck Juice as well, as Levi's tries to dislodge him from the position with an aggressive send. This could be huge. This could be the moment for Cerberus to capitalize and make a push of their own.
And it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. You see them fanning out already, getting as much zone control as possible, because as Archangel Predator fall, it means that now Cerberus can try and capitalize off the player advantage. The nades in hand from so many players, but they just don't have that hard information that they're looking for. Ninja is going to be running down the hill, but Duck Juice already having been flushed out by the zone. That nade is going to be kind of useless. Sololzi just waiting inside this dip almost, hoping not to expose himself, maybe using his teammates for bait to a certain extent. As he sees 777, he's now going to call this to the squad, but more nades, more smokes coming out. Ninja maybe thinks Cerberus are a whole lot closer than they are, and well, as soon as he commits to one of these fights down the hill, surely Sololzi is going to be ready to peek on it.
Sort of transition from a north versus south positioning to east versus west, but they've got Sololzi on the high ground now, and with that drop onto Ninja 2K, a huge spray from Hymas, now he has free reign to move around the high ground and use TE's best weapon against them.
777 looks like he's going to be out of the fight. Not really too useful as of now, but that nade, well, it softens up Hyzaki a tad. Ninja will be getting flushed as 777 goes down as well. It's all on timers to try and finish off the job for Cerberus as the nade comes through. That should be the end of the Expendables, and it's Cerberus. 1 game, 1 chicken dinner, but more importantly, 15 kills to go with it. I told you, this squad are a force to be reckoned with in this lobby.
Yeah, man. I mean, me and Elfish, we did an interview with the Cerberus Esports social media lady, and, well, they asked us for our predictions on percentage chance of this team getting to PGC. He went conservative. He said something like 70 to 80%, but for me, I gave it the full beans. I went 100%, and this is exactly why. This kind of performance, the form they've been on recently throughout the third-party tournaments, the team that was half of this team made their appearance at Nations, picked up the 2nd place, still looking incredibly strong, firing on all cylinders, and even in a position that was dangerous to play from. Not only did they survive as 4-man, but they picked up a ton of kills to go with it. A huge, huge, huge first game for Cerberus Esports.
Really impressive getting that many points on the board, as you mentioned so many times. They're consistently coming at the top end of things, and this squad in different variations has been around for a while. It's good to see that kind of momentum, but also I think the team that really stole the show, or should I say the player that stole the show, was I think it was CJ, the final player from Archangel Predator, remaining up inside that wizard tower in what was a very difficult position to play. I don't think anyone would have really had that much success off of it, because you kind of expect to get crashed so often, but he played just the right amount of aggression so that people knew it was occupied, but passive enough where they were like, okay, it could still be a full squad though, let's just keep it until the end game.
He really did play that solo role incredibly well, and was a big problem for the Expendables as they tried to dislodge him from that position. He picked up a knock on the way down and really unevened the scoreline, made it a 4 versus 3 at the end, gave the opportunity for Cerberus to wrap up around the northwest high ground and take the positions that was really the downfall of the Expendables. But all in all, a good showing for the Expendables, especially considering they started off with a bit of an awkward one, Ninja being dropped down very low as Genius was trying to dissuade him from going for the hard spawn car and contending for that. And coming from unfamiliar territory where they have sort of been forced out of their Pochinki hometown drop as well. A very good showing for the Expendables, a team that is very much up and down, and if they get on their roll, they can be a very, very strong team, so it's a fantastic start for them as well.
I think the key thing with the Expendables is when they do well out of the hot drop, they tend to do well. Now that they don't have that hot drop, they don't have the factor of, okay, this could be a 0-point game. Now it really could start to change things because, look, as strong of a team as the Expendables are, do they consistently come out on top in those hot drops? I'd argue attack all around, get out a whole lot more than they tend to do. And without that squad being in this lobby, it's really good for them. Taking a look at the standings, though, Cerberus, 25 points in one match. If they can keep anywhere near that pace up, I mean, they're going to qualify within the day for PGC.
Yeah, considering that they only need a 12th place position or higher as it currently stands to overtake Unicorn Phoenix, who is not participating in PCS 7, and overtake them for that guaranteed slot for the best performing team from Vietnam. This is a fantastic start for them, if not even continue this form and make it all the way and get the guaranteed slot for PCS 7 champions. It's early days to try and make any claims of that, but the performance that we've seen, particularly from this man himself, kill proportion of 33%, all of the squad contributing very, very well on the kills and the damage. 5 kills on the day for Haisaki. Fantastic news for a lot of the teams who picked him for their fantasy, me, kind of thing. But yeah, Cerberus really a huge start and a lot of momentum in their favor, as is to be expected looking at their recent performances.
I'm not going to talk about fantasy because SGD let me down. So did Mirage. I'm just not happy about it. But look, seeing Cerberus win that game, it's going to help me out a bit, and decent amount of damage on the board. So really impressive game there for Haizaki. I can't wait to get an update on how things are currently looking. But the important thing is to remember that's only game 1 down. We've still got 4 to go tonight. And I think a big talking point has to be that kind of map shift, because we see it occasionally where a couple teams will really thrive on one map, things will fall apart. And it feels like Daytrade, in my experience, tend to have a pretty strong Miramar game. At least from what I've casted of them, they tend to do extremely well on Miramar. And when you get those ridges, those really barren areas of terrain, that's where Daytrade post themselves up and just tear down so many other teams.
It's a little bit crazy as we were talking about Daytrade and how they control areas of the map and play it slow and don't get drawn into that Apex style. And Flash said, yo, hold my Leo, I'm going in, and just full sent crashed it. It was kind of a bit of a downfall for Daytrade this time around, but again, they're so safe on their PGC points. They are pretty much already locked in, so all that they need to do is just try and flex their muscles on the lobby, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. Didn't quite work out this time around, but no doubt they will bounce back in the same vein as Boraram, previous 2-time champions in PCS APAC, had a bit of a break from competing at the top level, but we love to see them back. It's a hugely popular team, and their performances at PGC last year got them a lot of fans in the Western audience as well. They are such a fun team to watch, very aggressive style, very confident, not only in the way that they take fights, but the way that they hold splits, like you saw it in this game, a 4-man one-way split all across a hugely prioritized area of the map is so confident, and they're able to hold it very successfully because people just don't want to mess with them.
Terrace on 5, though, not the best game for them, but how much of that can just be written off with the zone? And I think that will go for a lot of teams. We saw a lot of squads just get taken down on rotation in very messy fights. I don't think there's too much we can read into this, but in terms of potential, I think this is a squad that can really pop off at times, as long as they're on form, because when they have a bad game, it's a bad game.
It can be, but when they have a good game, they are absolutely ridiculous, and a lot of it comes down to that man in the bottom right on the screen, Rossitid JR, the veteran presence, like we said, been around winning since the early days of the Thailand series, and they brought in these young academy fraggers of Exgrozit and Patampong, and you know what? Rossitid, he's a little bit of a Waikika Mukau presence, the hype man as well, always loud, always shouting, hyping up the boys, so that's a large part of if they get the momentum rolling early on, and if they're not spending the first half of the game just rotating, caught between 2 or 3 other teams, then they get themselves into good positions. They will be aggressively taking fights, and more often than not, they come out looking the better.
Man, is it just me, or do I have a prediction we're going to E Arena next? No, it's coming back to us. I just thought we were just going through the Thai teams in order. Never mind. Anyway,
that's
look,
next game.
we're shortly going to be getting back into into Erangel, seeing how things go. And I really, at this point, I'm just hoping that the zone doesn't go the way it went last game. I'm hoping we can get maybe a bit more of a standard game to kick things off, because game number 2 is now live back here on Erangel, and it's going to be an exciting one, I am sure.
Wow.
The zone is always plane dependent. We should point in right now, and well, the plane is probably quite awkward, I'd say, for a lot of these teams.
Yeah.
Very southern.
Big time awkward, particularly for teams like Icarus Cyber, who they normally would be looking to contend a certain area, but this time around they've given up that drop and claimed Severny as their home time. But it looks like once again they're going back towards the west side of Millie Base, which could pay off hugely, because that is a very prominent zone possibility on a flight path like this, is the western tip of Millie Base. If it goes there, they have the perfect position. They can take the grannies on the high ground early and hold it down from all angles. A very defensible spot. But if it goes on the mainland, if it goes north, they've got to cross that bridge where E Arena is lurking. We still haven't seen the bridge camp yet, but when we do see it, let me tell you, it is very, very scary indeed. So we will see exactly what the zone has in store for us. We could very well see a repeat of game number 1 zone, which would be a great bit of news for a couple of teams. Cerberus, Buriram again have a lot of control. Let's find out where we're going.
It's going to be an interesting one, I'm sure. I know that PCS is...
Wow.
Okay, so look, what we've learned so far is that PCS is going to be horrible for every single team, because we've got another 50-50 zone here, where it's 50% water and not much else. So if we see the discipline we saw from last match, I don't think it'll be too much of a problem, where teams are able to stay standing early. But if we see that kind of revert to APAC, if that makes sense, and we see the teams change that playstyle, they get aggressive early, well, it will lead to a very messy early game and probably quite a slow late game. But take a look over at the kill leaders from that last match. Of course, Izaki put up points, but for Cerberus to get 15, you had to expect another teammate was going to be up here.
Big outing for Vietnam in game number 1. 3 different teams on the board, and a cameo from CJ of Archangel Predator as well. So not only was he able to lurk down in the Wizard Tower, but he picked up all of his team's kills as well from that position, which is a huge, huge play. In fact, maybe it was all but 1 perhaps. But all in all, 9 points on the board. The Archangel Predator must be very thankful to CJ for, especially picking up that 1 kill as he was in a 1v4 situation being crashed. That is not at all easy to stay composed under pressure like that, make the most of a bad situation. All in all, it's enough to get them a 3rd place spot in the standings right now, but that can very swiftly change. Cerberus with a 25-point game in game number 1, and there's so many teams, particularly those towards the bottom end of the standings, Daytrade, GE, T5, Team Bliss, all very much capable of having a Cerberus-esque performance this time around, but the flight path, the zone, has not played into their favor for it. MS Chumburi this time around have to be looking at them to pick up a big game coming out of Yasnaya. A lot of very potential split areas available to them just on the eastern side of Yasnaya that could come into play in the late game. So very much hoping to see a big performance from them this time around.
I'm wondering how many teams are actually going to bank up to the north and maybe cause problems up there as we take a look over at the Origami Orangutans. Man, I'm just not going to get my head around that name until it's too late, am I? This is a squad coming out of OCE, as we mentioned. A lot of players that, I mean, if you follow OCE, you know this squad. Even if you maybe did follow OC in the past, you may not be too familiar with Kang. That guy is, as we mentioned earlier, kind of come out of nowhere, put up some big numbers, and in previous PCS put up a lot of work for his team. But as of now, we are yet to see that from Origami Orangutans. Let's hope that maybe that will change. But honestly, with a very similar zone, I guess the only positive they can get is a far north rotation. And well, Bliss, they didn't get too many positives out of that previous game.
No, not so much. I mean, we said Mirage was in the kill feed on the correct side of it a few times until he wasn't, and then unfortunately weren't able to get much more going for them from that position. Picked apart by Icarus Cyber. as they try to wrap through those treacherous Milta fields. This time that won't be an issue for them, but they are setting up to cross over the Eastern Bridge. PMA could potentially be a bit of an obstacle, but they're not really lurking in any sort of semblance of what appears to be an aggressive hold on the bridge, so they should be okay. And yeah, coming in as this has been a drop spot for Insight all a long time, back to the Fury days. So their approach to bridge camps is very methodical, very practiced, and they're very, very good at sniffing it out. And if they do suspect that something's gone wrong, they're not opposed to going to the opposite bridge, but they do need to be a little cautious. If they wait too long, Icarus Cyber is starting to make a move over towards this eastern bridge themselves, and this might actually turn into a bit of an impromptu Bliss bridge camp against Icarus Cyber.
Yeah, and that's not the way you want it to go, accidentally bridge camping the team that you're landing against. It could very easily be read wrong by the other team as, oh, these guys were trying to bridge camp us, let's, you know, do the same to them going into the next few games. It looks like that's the case. Monty, he's heard the vehicles, and now he wants to capitalize off of it. Spray connects with only 22 damage, though. Flashbang looks to follow and maybe find a little bit more. AT up over the ridge and spotted from range as Monty tries to hit the seat swap. It's going to be Mirage in the end who gets the knock on the board, needs to convert it to a kill, and will be able to do exactly that. Bliss need to try and reposition. His Insight with that long range cover does a lot of damage onto Y8, but it looks like Mirage is preoccupied with the vehicle, not paying attention to Y8 behind, and that will be to his detriment. Monty falls as well as Icarus Cyber barely remain in it, but God, they have turned things around quickly.
The problem is they've got 2 knocks onto Team Bliss, but the confirms have come through. They will confirm out Monty. Mirage will be a bit more difficult to do so. Insight with an angle on the bridge is forcing Antoine to keep his head down right now. This is a player, you may not recognize the name AT, but previously played under 3007 for Game Home. In fact, practically the whole of the previous Game Home team is playing in this PCS, just under different names outside of Clories, who is... You can't really change that name. It's so recognizable. It's a brand at this point, is Clory's dominance. But unfortunately, not quite the dominance that Team Bliss were hoping for on this bridge camp. Monty's initial spray not getting the full drop onto AT is cost them quite dearly. Mirage will be bleeding out as well. So it's a 2-2, and Insight just looking for the peak. He does get the final bullet in, so could be able to turn things around with one final knock, but a grenade in the hand of Y8 could put an end to that. Just gets the wrong tree, though. Very unfortunate.
But that will give Insight a little bit of safety to work with. Ultimately, though, Bliss are down to 2 players at best for the rest of the game. Insight playing point as Bryn tries to move around the side. They know that AT is going to be down and will be able to provide a little bit of info. Thankfully, he does bleed, and it leaves only Y8 left up. He is going to start moving away. I'm sure this will be Insight's cue to start landing some shots. Unfortunately, though, the ridge is there for cover, and Y8 gets to safety. If he chooses to take this one, it'll be a bold move, but it looks like instead he's going for that rotation and potentially just taking the western bridge instead and thinking, hey, we'll try and get a couple of placement points if we're lucky.
Yeah, rough start for Icarus Cyber, once again, down to just a solo, but I suppose silver lining is that they do have more points on the board than Team Bliss does, and they've done significant damage to the OCE top dogs as well. He's actually going to come back around and cross the bridge behind them as they give up on their camping positions and start making a move. And I'm not sure that was a preliminary planned thing from Team Bliss. It just seemed like they were scouting in case of a bridge camp against them, and just the timing seemed to just work against Icarus Cyber this time around, but a little bit unfortunate. Oh my goodness, look at this. Simon T, what a sneaky little sausage, crawling his way up towards MS Chamburi on the eastern side, but that'll be a while before he has any impact. Quite the opposite of Jervis and Leo coming over from East Asia, the Hong Kong, Taiwan region representatives. A bit of international duty and the APAC scene, and once again, it's to the detriment of Archangel Predator losing Nan very early on and playing on as a 3-man for the vast majority of the game.
I'm worried about Archangel Predator and the way they're actually taking this retreat. Granted, they want to get that distance, but you want to be able to do it a whole lot quicker. Now, they're scouting out. They've realized it is going to be safe ahead of them, so they will be able to get away from the fight nice and easy. It doesn't look like, however, Genius actually want to move away from this one. Simon is just waiting for anyone from MSC to overexpose. And honestly, are you surprised? With a zone like this, it was kind of destined we'd have a couple of squads playing places like Yasnaya, where there are just a lot more spots of cover. E-Arena, though, with barely any cover out on top of the hill, looking up at Pride Rock, and well, that could be to the detriment of the opposing players. KM moves down. They opt not to engage, but PMA just have no idea.
Yeah, this is a weird position for E-Arena and PMA to find themselves in, sort of intermingled between themselves around the prison rocks and having to fall back on foot, not wanting to give them position away and run into any early shots. But Team Bliss is just rocking up out of nowhere. E-Arena's reposition is going to put them in prime position, and KM99 only needs a second to land a double headshot. Brint has to try and retreat, but he's going straight towards the other members of the very same team. But the bars on the window thankfully save him a little bit. But where do you even go from here? Just has to try and find a dip, maybe send it into Mansion and share some space with Buriram, who I'm sure are not going to be happy about doing just that.
Certainly not. And as they take the vehicle rotations, you have to think somebody like Edie's going to be able to just look out the side and find a couple of shots. Shen, though, does go down. Hey, at least it was after 10 minutes this time. I can take positives. I mean, look, Mirage has already griefed me in this game. I'm gonna have words with him later. SGD though, they are gonna be getting into the zone. Sophia's actually the one leading charge, and honestly, we haven't really touched on Sophia. It feels like all the attention's been on Shen, but that guy has also put in work historically across pretty much every region at this point. As
everywhere.
I mean, we'll come back to that in a little bit because I think Simon has to be our focus at this point.
I think it was like last year or something. We described Sophia as like a Pokemon trainer, just traveling all across the different regions, picking up the badges. Yeah, but now he's back in home territory, where I don't even think it was where he first competed, because he was competing under GEX in Taiwan for the first appearances. So, but no, it's back in home turf as a Malaysian representative. So great to see him back as well. But unfortunately, not the best start that we were hoping for SGD this time around, either losing out Shen early on. Still 7 points on the board and plenty of time and space to work with as a three-man. The shift could have something to say about that. Positioning could very well come back down towards the western side and put Day Trade in prime position, pretty much uncontested down in the field south of Yasnaya. But anywhere else, and it will be a big problem time for a lot of the teams, particularly the likes of Genius and MS Chonburi, who are still seemingly MS Chonburi unaware that Genius have crept their way in. Simon just on his stomach the whole time, crawled his way into the building and is just stutter stepping forwards, trying not to make a sound and get the drop on the Sharks above.
I mean, he's doing a good job of it. He's not been spotted. Cerberus, they find themselves a spot onto E-Arena, but I don't think it's going to be worth too much. Simus looks out with the 3x. Maybe expected E-Arena to make a push off of this, but that's not been the case. Now, Deraton 5 could cause real problems here for Genius. If they backfill a little too close and MSC start taking an engagement, then potentially Genius have put themselves in a position where they are pinched between two other squads. PMA, though, they were pinched earlier on. They managed to get out of it, and it looks like Pete wants to push through and be the opener onto this fight, but no real info other than the footsteps.
Keeping forwards, you can definitely hear some movement, and there it is. Simon T has been spotted out. So MSC know what's up. They've got their first point on the board. It's a very important one as well, because it gives them the information that Genius are creeping up dangerously close. Oh, that's maybe not what you were hoping for, though. Has to just drop off the roof to try and avoid some damage coming through, and ends up knocking himself out. And he's in dangerous territory. There is Zest just lurking around the corner. He will get the flush before he can get in a position for a revive. So it's a 1-for-1 trade between Genius and MS Chonburi, but now the gig is up. Now they know that it's a close range engagement, and they know that there's another team that has crept in on their northern side as well. It could make this even more awkward than it already was.
I'm looking to creep their way together and get into position as Bryn. Well, he's trying to do the same, but it's going to be tricky as a solo. Absolutely no support. He's just going to pull up below the expendables. I think he kind of knows how this is going to go, just wants to try and salvage a couple points off of it. Out in the open, Duck Juice peeks over. It's the end of Bliss, out in 16th position. Really rocky start for this squad. Very unfortunate. Hopefully, they get those kids in HQ to stop downloading whatever it was, and they can finally get playing at their top form again.
Yeah, Edge, come on, give the guys a chance. Come on, stop playing video games. Edge, your team is out here.
Stop updating your consoles.
Yeah, man,
we've heard what was going on.
Nah, there's very little that we can really put onto Bryn in that situation. He was trying to make the best of a bad situation, but there was really no best to be found. It's a wide open field, and his options were either try and play a dip and just lurk and survive until you inevitably get crashed, or try and crash something as a solo, and that was very unlikely to go any better at all. So fortunate for Team Bliss, but just running in. It was an earlier rotation this time out of military base for Team Bliss that was the reason that they got caught up in the whole thing with Icarus Cyber on the Eastern Bridge either way. Last time, Icarus Cyber was already gone over the bridge as they waited an extra couple of minutes, did some more looting. But this time, the zone just that little bit further away, they knew that if they wanted to get in a position, they had to go earlier, and still being cautious about that crossing. Just really ran into Icarus Cyber at the wrong time. Very unfortunate that Monty wasn't able to get the first initial knock onto AT. He got some damage, but not quite enough. And AT came back and did significant damage to Team Bliss as well. Really hampered their chances. Ranger X, he's going to have his chances very much hampered as well. Losing a tire, car spins out. Nothing that the rest of the squad can do to save him. They're just going to have to move on without him. Leave a man behind, but really it would have just been suicide to try and help him out.
Teddy opens up with the SLR and, well, takes down a Jervis. SGD now in some real trouble as they've been caught completely off guard. Sophia doing what he can to try and anchor round the back and maybe find an opening, but honestly, they are completely unaware that PMA have such a pinch being pulled out on him. SGD are in some real trouble. The nades will come out and get thrown behind. I think they are aware that there is a pinch coming out, but the question is how effectively will it work? And it appears that Mr. Clay is the one to put in some of that work. Circle pulls down towards them, and it's going to be a very open finish. So both of these teams could potentially slot themselves into the final few phases, but they need to wrap up this fight quickly if that's to be the case. Mr. Clay still there for the fire support as the rest of PMA close in. Sophia looks for an opening. Leo can't find one either as nothing seeming to connect. SGD just banging their heads against a brick wall right now. They are not finding anything out of this. Surrounded
all sides. They've got little happy smiling faces with positive mental attitudes staring down at them, but that's more than you can say about SGD. There's very little they can do, and here comes the dip crash for both. Oh, T5. That's New Gen and Archangel Predator. It's a three-way crash onto practically where the body of Bryn was fallen, left unburied, but Eriton 5 this time around will do some of the hard work, but it's actually New Generation Esports who pick up the vast majority of the points onto Archangel Predator. Youngby spotted, but he's got a grenade in his hand. Can't quite find him out. Dayan, last man standing for New Gen, but the Expendables aggressively holding their area, not wanting to sit back and let them lurk on the dips below. They're going to make an active push and go unpunished in doing so. SGD finally swept out from the trenches by PMA, keeping all four alive, keeping their vehicles up and active, and now claiming full control of the southeastern side of the zone.
Day Trade now taking control of the western side as not sure how aware they are of the squad down below. I think they probably assumed something as well. That's the first kind of major engagement to happen. You have to think, though, Saga, with a circle like this, it's not going to be the last jam, and peppered apart by Clarice as he gets ready to throw down his own nade. It's going to be Buram catching the rotations. Expendables trying to defend the Hanging Gardens yet again. SLR shots unable to connect as it looks like they want to solidify, realizing it's not viable to take a fight on two fronts as 777 going to be providing that fire support for his team moving through. Nothing comes through. Instead, it's going to be Genius starting to take even more casualties, and yet again off MSC.
They're just still lurking out in the blue zone. They were so close together on this eastern tip of Yasnaya that there was no way that one was going to be able to escape without coming into vision of the other. And now, with the maneuver from FTF getting themselves into a position to find third-partying shots, it might just be both teams really coming out with nothing to show for it. Zest is on the move. Okay, this is the most Nordra thing I've seen all day, and we've already seen quite a lot of it. Just sprinting, shift Wing across wide open territory with multiple teams on all angles to plonk a nade down. Oh, it's almost so perfectly placed, just the timing slightly off, but it doesn't matter because the spray is more than enough. The barrels of Nordra and Eddie ringing out, singing the demise of Theraton 5, and that dip once again becomes a graveyard for a fourth team this time around, and the Expendables up above coming off completely unfazed.
Now, though, from the future, they need to try and find their opening. I think they've realized that those buildings aren't as viable as they maybe thought. Having to make a move out of there into a very open area of zone is tricky enough. But the fact is, the Expendables are the only ones who have info ahead of this zone and have themselves an entrance to work with. They need to be careful, though. They should be aware of Buram having a player down there. And, well, Daytrade there, aware of the origami orangutans laying prone. The nade close, but not close enough as the rest of the squad look and try and decide where they want to move into. You have to think just over the hill is looking like a very promising position. Zurez gets taken down. He looks to take one out of his own, but as all the players lay prone, the vehicles are there. They are just chilling. They are not stressed. They realize they're not getting pushed. From the future moving in, though, is potentially going to change it. Delta Mix leads the charge as Y8 tries to remain standing. Trick takes down his own teammate, but in the end, it's Icarus Cyber who go down. Flash with the third party takes down Man, and Daytrade looking to trade a couple kills out of this one. Cerberus involved onto Expendables, so they can't even third party. It's really Cerberus who are a threat here. As Flash goes through, it hits Trick and down. Only Delta Mix left up, and well, Daytrade, it should be theirs for the taking.
Vehicular manslaughter from FTF, friendly fire, and Teddy just can't catch a break with these vehicle sends. This time it works out for Flash. They actually hit him. They heard the crunch of Delta Mix, and they got the flush onto Trick as well, and that vehicle fort is looking mighty tasty.
Oh,
but
Expendables.
He's only got Molotovs. He doesn't have grenade, but he's got a teammate that does. Just to the side, 777 lining up a nade into the smoke. It's going to bounce just a tickle too far, but it bounces back onto Belmoth. Puchills just about avoiding the fire. Flash the same, but this little dip is just going to be a huge problem for every single one of these teams.
And don't forget, there's flashbangs coming through as well. Every bit of util that can be thrown is being thrown, and Flash is going to fall victim to that. It's only going to be Puchills and Nuren's left up as well. Make it just Puchills. Monkey trying to get involved from the backside. I think it's Kang who throws out the nade to really do the damage. As Puchills, I don't think he even knows what's going on. He tried to throw an underhand nade. I think it was a smoke. It worked. Origami orangutans get taken out in 7th by Cerberus. That's the end of Daytrade. But now Expendables are in the same position with even less cover and all of those blown up vehicles in front of them.
Look at that. Top 5 in this game is the top 5 in the standings. It's a huge performance from all of these teams. Cerberus, oh my god, look at that zone. That's ridiculous for them. They held the 2-2 split. They regrouped up on Alamo. E-Arena was able to backfill, but well, they don't get even a whiff of the zone. Cerberus has it all to themselves. Maybe Buram can just cling on to this, 17-car fort, which is just flaming walls right now, and try and use it for some visual cover, maybe a little bit of hard cover if they can get the angles right. It depends if those exploded vehicles are in the zone or not, but they've got some of their own that they can slightly maneuver, but everyone else, this is a horrible, horrible position to try and find a way in towards, and even Buram with the cover of the vehicles is not safe. KMF lands a long-range SLR shot to sit down Kanaxi, but running out of time and space is the Expendables. They're going to have to try and make a bit of a move. That 777 AWM has to land a shot soon if they want to try and make a crash.
And that AWM is only so powerful. It's not too useful when those crashes come out. It needs to be used preemptively to take down enemy players before they even start that rotation. E-Arena starting their own as the first vehicle looking to follow. Heimer still waiting and covering. The Arena close things down as Cerberus now start to open up, making the most out of the cover, and it looks like potentially going to find a couple of kills out of it. A lot of damage lands, but ultimately nothing converts as Hymus needs to go for the heal. It looks like Expendables try and make a move of their own. Duck Juice goes down. There's only 2 members remain for that squad, and well, Cerberus just laying down as much util and ammo as they can. You've got to think they must have limited amounts. They can't have too much left to work with.
It's looking pretty slim. Just a couple of mags left, but well, they're so efficient with it that I'm sure it will be enough. Sapnix as well, contributing with a knock from range with the MK14. Ninja 2K has been sat down and removed, but there's nothing that he can do about the off angles of PMA, who have managed to creep their way into the zone. They've got a little bit of a ridge to work with, and that's just huge, huge news for E-Arena. Unfortunately, not good news, as they have to try and fight their way out of this situation. They're getting a little bit of covering fire, and Sapnik's still able to find angles, but Hymas, through the smoke, sits down Lyrics, and it's all on Sapnix with the MK in the blue zone. Will be more than enough to sit him down after he's tagged down from range. It's unfortunate not to pick up a kill point, but Cerberus, look at how many points they picked up. Once again, 5 kills, 5 placement points, and no doubt hoping to pick up more, maybe the back-to-back win.
Certainly hoping for it, as I'm sure anyone who's picked him in the pick'ems is as well. Consolidated though, and Buriram, as weak as their position in terms of cover maybe, they have such zone control, and they still have some ridges to work with. PMA though, they are just trained behind this vehicle. It feels like it's just about throwing down a firing line. They're also the only team that has to move into zone, and when your vehicle's your only cover, it's not too smart to be hopping into that, so the smokes are going to be very important here. Honestly, I know that the winner chicken dinner percentage isn't super accurate, but PMA having nearly a 30% chance, it just doesn't seem like it to me. That vehicle, or the 2 vehicles they have, they're already smoking. You've got to think they're going to blow up as soon as this rotation comes through.
You can't count it out while Nordra's in the lobby. Well, never mind. I was going to say, there's always the chance he'll just run across the open field and throw 50 grenades at Cerberus, but he's not going to get a chance. He's sat down. Tycon will just slim out the chances of PMA once again with a headshot on towards Mr. Clay. He's going to be flushed out as well. Hymas finds the angle. Ammo is very, very limited for Cerberus, but like we said, they're still on point with the shots. And Nordra, though, thankfully back up on his feet for Buriram, but he's still got a bit of a distance to try and cover before he can get into grenade range of Cerberus. Utility on both sides is looking relatively healthy. Buriram, maybe surprisingly, still has a lot to work with. Haven't been in too many close range engagements this time around. But for PMA, they're running dangerously low on smokes, and they desperately need all the cover they can get. They can creep forwards to a rock, but that's not really enough for the 3 players that they still have standing.
Tycon trying to land those SLR shots, but I mentioned it earlier on, Cerberus is so limited in terms of utility. Sure, Tycon has a decent amount of 7.62, but in terms of 5s, there's about 30 out between the entire team right now, so anyone rocking a mini is having to be a whole lot more conservative when it comes to their shots. That nade, though, was certainly promising. Luckily, Teddy got the read and was able to back away quick enough. Yeah. Cerberus dropping that ammo, splitting it out, doing everything they can to remain in it, but really it is just a case of rationing now, and hoping for the best. It looks like, though, Buriram want to get a little bit more proactive. You can see them moving. They are just waiting for the pop almost.
They're actually getting somewhat gifted a little bit of extra cover. Eddie can keep his way over to the left as soon as PMA are dealt with. Ooh. Oh no, he gets one tapped. No helmet. That's a huge, huge boost to KMF. And that one tap could have been avoided had Eddie had a helmet, but unfortunately didn't have one, and now we're have to scramble to get him back up. But they've been gifted some cover in the form of a couple of crates. If he could have got over to that, he gets the helmet for free, the upgrade, maybe even the weapon he can make a move with. But look, Nordra and Kanaxi still trying to close the distance, trying to just probe with grenades to see whether they're in range of Cerberus just yet. It's not quite the case. Cerberus finally forced to make a move out of their position in the zone by the phase 8 shift. They do have enough smokes to try and make it to this little ridge, and those grenades are already dangerously close to Buriram, a little bit closer, and they're really in trouble.
Tycon still anchoring behind as Hymas up top. I mean, look, they got the smoke down for cover. It's brave. And you also have to remember that I think a lot of people forget is when you have that high ground, it is a lot easier to look over a smoke and see what's behind it. And that's a clear example of it. Cheeksing really thought that he was completely open, but the kill is stolen away by Teddy. PMA, even with the final player, are looking to third party. And as much as I dismiss their chances, these two squads trade it out enough. Teddy could very easily come in and get involved. I say that, but the caster curse comes through. It's Nordra who takes him out. Haizaki with a spray is going to be forced to back off. But in the end, Teddy goes down and Hymus looks to close the distance as well. Flash is coming through as I think Cerberus realized just how limited their util is. That ammo to work with. But you don't need a lot of ammo when you hit shots like that. Sololzi putting in work. And it's Cerberus with the second chicken dinner. Saga, you were right. Look, you said there was such a slim chance they make it to PGC. It feels like that chance is just growing bigger and bigger. They are already in first by a significant margin. And they don't show any signs of stopping.
Look, we said it's early days to talk about who could potentially walk away as the PCS 7 champions, but this form is not slowing down for Cerberus. Granted, they did get a little bit of assistance from the zone, but it was just smart rotations, knowing when to give up on the 2-2 split, not overcommitting to holding both compounds when E-Arena was creeping in behind them. But that is not a compound where you can be safe. The tiny little Alamo with windows on all sides, broken walls, high ground all around it. There's a lot of angles that can be used against you in that position, but they still kept themselves healthy, kept their meds, their armor, their utility intact for the longest amount of time. And when it came to it, landed the shots even with the very limited amount of ammo that they had available and kept those flashbangs up for the inevitable flashbang spam at the end of the game to round it out. But Buriram again, another top placement for them, this time a second place. It's a big return to form for previous two-time champions, but Cerberus is just a step above today.
And Cerberus have just demonstrated two kind of alternate strategies. They have one strategy where they go out, they get a huge number of kills, and they wipe out half the lobby. That's what we saw in game number 1. But we've also shown now that they can be a little bit more disciplined with their playstyle, and they aren't afraid to, okay, if we've got a compound, let's just play out of it and make the most. Because granted, it was an impressive chicken dinner, but for a Cerberus chicken dinner, it wasn't as high kill as we would maybe be used to after game 1.
I'm not so sure that matters too much. Like, they will take it either way. But again, it just shows how good they are at just being aggressively territorial. Like game number 1, where they did make a bit of a send to get into the position early on, and it was not a strong position at all. It was very much grenadable if they were allowed teams to creep up towards them on their western side, but they didn't allow it at all. And it was the very same situation here. So many teams up towards the northern side of the zone that were really forced to crash each other in the dips, where FTF was running over teammates, and then Daytrade came in and ran over FTF, and then the Expendables came in and ran over Daytrade. They were forced to make that play in that position because Cerberus just simply wouldn't allow anyone to get close enough to them. And even if they had tried, the third-party angles were just all surrounding that area. It was way too dangerous to try and get close. So Cerberus, once again, a very defensive hold. And a three-headed dog, man, the bark is just as strong as the bite, and you really don't want to be getting too close to them.
I think it's important to talk about Buriram as well, though, because being able to get a consistent second is also a sign of promise. It shows that you're a consistent squad. Now, granted, you're not getting those insane amount of points. You're not getting all the glory, but we need to give them that attention because game 1, they got into the end game. They got a decent number of kills, found themselves in an awful position. Game 2, I mean, the same thing kind of happened, and they still got 16 points out of it. 10 kills to go alongside. Yep. Super impressive. And the disparity between first and second that game is not huge. Even as you go down to third, there's only 4 points in it between second and third.
Yeah, this time around, it was maybe a little bit less even across the board. And I think the zone really played into that. It was just way too wide open. The likes of SGD never really had a chance this time. There's just surrounded and conquered by PMA earlier on. A bit of Malaysian home turf violence, but once again, we're getting a Cerberus-infused player of the match, while the damage is not looking super clean. Sololzi, well, you saw exactly how many teams were third-partying each other, stealing away kills towards the end of that game, knocks left, right, and center, being picked off by other teams. Teddy was a huge part of that for PMA, picking up a couple of extra points as the last remaining solo for Positive Mental Attitude, and Sololzi doing just the same as well. So the damage might not look as sleek and sexy, but the kills is what matters. That's where the points come from, and he's more than happy just to claim those 3 for free.
Of course, got to take a look over at the total leaderboard, though, and wow, Cerberus, wow, what a jump that Buriram have to make. Now, look, it's not beyond all reason. If Buriram can go on and win this game, they definitely close that gap. The same being said for Expendables, but after that point, things start to become pretty barren in terms of the points that have been salvaged from teams.
They really are, and if we look once again back, we talked about PGC points at the start of the day. The 2 Vietnamese representatives who have the highest coming in from PCS 6, having performed in both, is of course Cerberus and the Expendables. So seeing both of those in the top 4 is great news for them, but for the other teams, particularly the likes of Genius Esports, with Clories, with the previous players from Game Home that he used to play with Disgusting, and God knew it is, that have changed their name to something else, and Utah, they're both performing back again with the previous 2-time champions of BN United as well, in Simon T and Zest on the squad. They're not looking like they're in prime position to try and climb those PGC point standings right now, but once again, they got caught in a bit of a tangle with MSC on the eastern side of Yasnaya. So hopefully they can avoid that and show their strength, because they are another very, very strong Vietnamese team. But right now, it's all Cerberus.
What worries me, Saga, and I'm not sure how you feel about this, is team list going forward. I'm a little bit concerned, but I think we'll talk about that in the future. Before we do, we are going to take a very short break. We've got 1 more Erangel coming up, followed by 2 Miramar. Don't go anywhere.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafter's Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Welcome back, everybody, to PCS 7 APAC. Back-to-back chicken dinners for Cerberus so far. Still one more Erangel game to go, and then things switch over. But during the break, the Saga, you brought up something that I thought was very interesting, is that Buriram have made it to the top 4 twice, and typically they tend to thrive a little bit more over on Miramar. Maybe things will kind of swap when we get over to game 4.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, if we go back to what, like PCS 3, PCS 4, where they picked up their championship winning performances, even there it was like 60-65% of the points for Buriram were picked up on Miramar historically. So this time around, good to see a good performance on Erangel, and hopefully that carries over. And it's been a good performance as well so far for E-Arena. Very, very young team coming together, and there's Lil Flash Jr. up in the top right-hand corner of Lyrics, but a 5th place position for them on their first outing. And really, there's only upwards that they can go. Still yet to bring in Jay Sparker into the fold as the substitute that comes in, and he brings a different dynamic as an IGL to the team as well. So interesting that he's the one to have been subbed out to make way for Lyrics in day number 1 and the first couple of games, but so far it's been definitely working out in their favor.
We touched on MSC there with the player cams. That's been a little bit disappointing, I think it's fair to say. 2 pretty rocky games. Only managed to get themselves 3 total points so far in dead last, but the Expendables are kind of at the opposite end of things, 3rd overall. Sure, they're not popping off in any extreme way, but they're consistently getting a couple points each game, and that's all you can really ask for. Game number 3 will be getting underway shortly, so we hop into our final Erangel of the evening. And it opens a lot of questions. Are we going to get a bit more of a friendly zone, or are we going to get a big change and those messy circles that we've had the past 2? Game number 3 is underway, though, and Saga, I cannot wait to get it started.
Really got to be hoping, if you're a West Coaster, one of the Georgia Pole teams, that you're getting a little bit of circle favor this time around, because we've been very East heavy in games number 1 and 2 around the Lumberyard and then up around the field by Mansion. So really hoping to see something a little different this time around. Flight path favoring the north and western side of the zone, but once again over towards the east, still got a very high potential of seeing that back in the mix, which once again could potentially be a bit of a mulligan for MS Chumburi this time, hoping to see a little bit more on the end of points. But that is a weird little, 3-team engagement for a car spawn, it looks like, between Jowman, E-Arena, and Simon T just towards the eastern side of Roshawk. Could get very messy very quickly.
Absolutely could, and we're yet to see any real hot drops so far. I wonder if that will remain the same, or whether those teams down at the bottom think, okay, we need to get a little bit more aggressive. It looks like Genius, well, they want to get aggressive, as they already...
Levi's,
I was going to say they flushed him out, but Ninja was doing a really good job with that defensive drive in there. Let's not forget E-Arena around this as well, so they could try and third party. 777 spotted out by Sophia. Look, Expendables, it is not going well. Maybe it's time to just take a break, maybe get one of those sleep masks that E-Arena have a little break and come back for game number 4.
This is the problem once again. They have given up their drop spot for unfamiliar territory going up north, and nobody wants to give up on their own habits. Of course, Genius will be more than willing to have taken that hard spawn up in their local lobbies, and this time it's just Jervis with a gun this time, and all the dodges coming through for 777 aren't going to be quite enough to get away from it. We really did it to them by talking about how they performed well in the first couple of games. Now Expendables, as just a 2-man coming in, they do at least find a hard spawn to work with, but that is a big loss. 777 and Levi's have been putting in a lot of hard yards for the Expendables in the first couple of games. Not going to be able to do so this time around.
Oh, we got a replay of the crashes last match.
Oh, this is the dip chaos.
Yeah, this is the one down by, I'm not even sure what everyone calls it. I still call it the Hanging Gardens compound. This is where everyone was sending it in. And look what Patrick was able to do on the rotation. Peppered them up, kind of softened them, but it was Youngby, more importantly, to return the fire. And it just traded back and forth until they finally got in. And there was the initial knock, and well, it was just mayhem from that point onwards, wasn't it?
Yeah, look who's lurking around the corner, straight in around the side. They go for the seat swap onto Archangel Predator. Theraton 5, though, are just like, hey, what's going on over here? Let's get involved. And up above them, it was the Expendables again who were up in that position, who farmed so many of those free kills, those knocks, just stealing them away from below them. But this time around, they're not going to have the opportunity to be doing that. It looks like it's going to be a much more passive game from the Expendables, forced to keep their head down. And we knew that contesting for vehicles was a bit sketchy. We sort of called it out in the previous game. They did just about come away looking the better, but couldn't get it done this time around. Genius picking up the early knockover and flush with the vehicle, and then a second for SGD, who have used that singular point they picked up to creep up into 7th position. So while it has been a maybe a slow day for the expectations that we have just purely for the names in that lobby, they're still not too far down in the standings, but a lot of that is just the fact that Cerberus has taken so many points in the lobby so early on that it's still very, very close for everyone. 6th place and down, all in single digits, is a ridiculous place to be in game number 3.
It's hard to believe almost. From the future, they've got themselves a couple of kills on the board, only 6 points overall though. Definitely need to start stepping things up, but as you mentioned, look, they're still middle of the pack even with that performance. I think teams should be concerned though, because when you do have 1 or 2 squads up at the top end of things kind of sponging every single point, then it leaves very few at the bottom, as you previously touched on, which means that 1 or 2 can make a huge difference. So if you're a team like From the Future, you still have to be playing for every single point. You can't get complacent and think we're middle of the pack, because all it takes is one team to have a good game and, well, you're knocked a few places down. Origami Orangutans, though, trying to kick their game off well. Unfortunately, though, Akita not able to land his initial shots, and now the arena surrounding him, throwing in nades as the rest of Monkey try to move in. It's not going to be enough. Akita goes down, and, well, the arena with the first kill of their game.
They very much knew that that was the game plan the whole time. There was no opportunistic measures about that. Arena came prepared for a full send and a crash. 2 shotguns and a micro Uzi involved from the get-go. That's not normally what we're seeing teams pick up before they hop in their vehicles and make rotations, but they knew that they were just going to find a compound and fully commit. That's exactly what they did. And Origami Orangutans, that is never ever anything that you would expect to see in an OCE lobby, were not at all prepared for that level of aggression. That's the APAC mentality that we want to see coming through. And E-Arena have done it to great effect. They've got themselves a position. Origami Orangutans, while they do have the high ground and they can look for a little bit of revenge and potentially a knock and a flush if they get a little bit careless and head up towards the balcony and expose themselves. But for now, they are still coming back in, a man down.
Jarman tries to get that man advantage, though, for MSC as they get the knock onto AT. It looks like FP now wants to try and close the distance and trade something out, but in a very exposed position. It looks like Icarus Cyber might just have to leave this player to fall as they back away and get over to safety. Still a drop up to the north, though. I'm not sure if anyone has noticed that, but that'll be a nice little bit of extra loot. Of course, that 3 gear being ever so important in a lobby like this, where you know everyone's landing the headshots.
Yeah, especially with the amount of bolt actions that we saw in game number 1 on the board that were hitting shots. Like Ninja 2K was very dangerous, and he is one of the few TE players that is still active and alive at this point, but it is just out in the water, so maybe MSC don't want to get too involved in that. They'll just take the free knock and flush onto Antoine, and my guy Fap just sat down, can't really do anything about it, just couldn't prevent the crash from coming through and keep his teammate alive. So another split early on that is punished. Icarus Cyber still down towards the southern side of shooting range and the compound just up the road northwest. And MS Chamburi is still just circling it like the sharks in the logo, just trying to claim more space for themselves.
Looking at the kill steals, though, it really it says a lot about Buram and Expendables getting 4 apiece, not afraid to put themselves in a good position and steal away other squads' work.
I actually want to know how many of those are stolen from each other, because those are the 4 teams that were still active when the open field ending of game number 2 came into play, and the amount of kill steals we saw there, where Hymus was getting a knock on the roof and then Teddy was flushing it away and vice versa, and Buram involved. it's not really a surprise that those are the top 4 teams for kill steals after the first couple of games, given the ending of game number 2.
I'm going to have to be reaching out to some of those guys at Twire and trying to get that stat for you, because that has got to be an interesting one for that one game, just how many kills were stolen. I'm sure there's some API wizard out there that's going to be able to pull that one up. But for now, I think we just agree that with all of these top teams stealing so many kills, there's almost certainly a high percentage. Day Trade are going to post themselves up very early on, but not super central in the grand scheme of things. They are fairly off to the east, but they've got a good hillside, and this is a really good entry point. However, not really the late game position you want in a zone like this. It looks like 2 teams making an entry on Everest, though, Cerberus and SGD. I don't think either of them are aware.
API wizardry out the window right here.
You've got it.
I just looked on the Twire, the team stats. Buriram, stolen kills 4, PMA, stolen kills 2, Expendables, stolen kills 2. All of those teams lost kills 0. Cerberus, stolen kills 2, lost kills 6. So they really have been unfortunate. They could be on 50 points by now if it weren't for these little poachers lurking on the edge of the zone, stealing away all their much-earned kill points. But you know what? They've got plenty already, so I'm sure it's all in all grateful to be shared around a little bit. We'll see whether or not they're able to be a little more proficient with their flushing this time around, but they have been doing a little bit of poaching of their own as well. We saw 3 kills on the board with just about 200 damage in the previous game. So, yeah, there's not really much to complain about for Cerberus that time. But for Buriram, they will be happy to have claimed those extra points, now making a move up north of Severny and potentially looking to try and catch MS Chonburi unaware in a 2-2 split of their own.
It's going to be a tricky one as PMA just try and send it straight through the middle of 2 squads, and everybody appears to be looking at them. It won't exactly pay off because the circle pulls down south. I think SGD are going to be very happy about this one, but it causes a lot of questions. Specifically, in my mind, have to be Buriram and MSC, who now start to make a rotation along the beach. They have a very long ways to go, and they could potentially end up swinging all the way down to the south here if the zone ends up going that way, which could it could really hamper their game plan, I think.
There's a lot of teams that were not expecting this much of the south side of the river to still remain in play. That is a huge knock in the kill feed. Teddy up there as the 3rd highest damage dealer in the lobby right now, but he's been sat down by Yuta of Genius Esports, and there it is from Sophia. Another huge, quick, clean spray from decent range as well, and that is a huge knock, huge kill to come through, removing Hisaki from the lobby, a big performer so far, and Tycon's down as well. Leo, they've spotted out who it is, and they want blood. He's coming out straight away for the seat swap, and that's half of Cerberus's number down. The 3-peat is looking very unlikely now.
It's brutal for Cerberus, but at the end of the day, they've got enough of a buffer. They don't really have to be too concerned as long as they avoid making mistakes like that again. But it is a good start here for SGD as they get 3 kills on the board. Of course, though, the player we hyped up so much, Shen, is not able to get any. I'm sure that's going to be changing soon. Okay, Utah. Okay.
Now, you know what?
We spoke earlier about the bolts, didn't we? And that's just being emphasized.
Yeah, that is the man who used to play on Game Home alongside Disgusting, and let me tell you, that's kind of accurate for what that shot was, and accurate is what that shot was as well. Teddy never had a chance.
Imagine being that player who's rotating around and you just get cracked out the vehicle. That has got to be such a tough feeling, but at the same time, big respect for being able to land it. PMA now in a pretty safe position, all things considered. Doesn't appear to be too many squads around. They have themselves a bit of a shelter. Patrick is trying to punish onto Flash, though. Maybe going to try and spot those tires, give them a pop. Just deny Day Trade that rotation as they are a little bit split. Only 2 from AAP in this location. The rest of the squad a little bit further away, but should be able to group up if they need to. That's if AAP even have more players up, which apparently they do, but I can't even see them on the map, Sark. They've got to be far away.
They're up
they're over at the river.
2 in cube, and then there's
there
2
it is.
Just at the a little bit split.
I got confused. I thought they were going with a massive split rotation or something then.
Not so much, but this time around, at the very least, they've got themselves into a position where you know, they've proven pretty efficient at keeping themselves alive until the late stages, and now they're in that sort of position early on with 4 still alive. Might just have to regroup a split in a phase or two. The Expendables, I know they're in very much an Archangel Predator Game 1-esque position where they're down to just 2, and they've had to find somewhere just to keep their head down for the time being. They've chosen the Ice Screams just north of the river, just shy of where Theraton 5 is lurking by the Western Bridge, which is, it's a good survivable position with a lot of opportunities to keep themselves up in the zone for a couple more shifts, but as soon as teams start to play that hilltop to their south, very exposed to that area, they're going to have to commit a lot of smokes and even potentially make a rotate, as this zone, it's threatening to go up towards the northeast, towards the likes of Genius, Team Bliss, and Daytrade.
Genius have to be the ones to watch right now as they try and hold out so many of the squads, but equally Buram looking to go dead center in a very open area of the zone with Archangel Predator posted up ahead. MSC though, they're making a rotation of their own as they get shot from the side. It's going to give Daytrade all the information they could possibly ask for. Nuren's just going to be waiting to go for that spray, but maybe waits a little bit too long. The rest of the squad find a lot of damage. Job Jab, literally, if he bumps his head right now, he's going to be going down. Hits the deck, though, behind the vehicle, and the smoke immediately to follow up. I have no idea, Saga, how MSC didn't take a casualty there, and I think that Nuren's kind of waiting with that trigger discipline was the right play, but just a little bit delayed when it came to retaliation.
Slightly indecisive on which target to pick. You saw him just sort of flicking between the buggy, between the Dacia. Maybe the communication wasn't perfectly on point between who his teammates were shooting at. Obviously, the buggy is the prime target, and if he had been taking shots, just one extra bullet would have been enough for Job Jab to go down, but popping the tire, spinning out, fortunately out of vision range. And, well, even more fortunately, Archangel Predator have regrouped their split on the opposite side. They've sent all 4 members over towards Cube to hold the river crossing against Cerberus. That means that there is not only the hilltop free for MS Chonburi, but the compound below as well. And it's a veteran roster, like, being down in the low end of the standings isn't going to be a huge concern for them. They have a lot of composure and a lot of experience between this squad, so getting a good position like this should play into their hands and give them a chance to start climbing the standings. And even with 4 points on the board, if they have a 7-point game, they're going to be all the way up to 6th place right now, looking at the standings with still so many teams on single digits.
But importantly, so many more games to go as every team still stands a chance in getting to the top end of things as long as somebody starts to shut down Cerberus and Buram very quickly. Icarus looking up the hill. It's JN who plays point there as Y8 initiates the fight. Teddy goes down, and, well, from the future, looking in a very tricky position. Y8 is going to try and get the revive, which will buy them a little bit more time, and it looks like the res coming out on the other end of things as well. JN, though, spotted through the smoke as man can't finish the job. Icarus Cyber really need to get these players in, but it's so much easier said than done, as now Bliss finally start to third party. Mirage is quickly traded out by Daytrade.
Look at how many teams there are converging on the northern side of the zone. They know that it's going to be a farm fest up top, and E-Arena's committed 75% of the squad, just Lyric's holding the back line, but Team Bliss, it's 3 players. Insight has been caught on the move. Bryn can't do anything but pop a smoke and lurk behind the tree, and just on the opposite side of the ridge where Icarus Cyber are facing the very same fate as well at the hands of FTF, who are now being pressured from behind by Genius Esport as well. Bryn will fall. Sapnix finds him with the scar around the tree, and FTF are being picked apart. It's down to just Trick. Long range, Genius Esports firing over the top of him. Man is still lurking on the edge of the zone. Fap just on the outside has to try and find an angle or find a way in quickly, but even then it's going to just be straight into the firing line set up by Genius Esport.
Glorious able to shut down FP as man also going down. It's Icarus Cyber to fall in 13th. You have to wonder who is next to follow with From the Future so far split. Phase 4 is going to get ready to make a move, and remember there's still a bunch of teams down by that southern river ready to make a cross. Canaxi goes down to Utah as Genius are just putting in work.
My guy is just on one with the bolt action today. God knew, really performing And he's, well, really proving our point about how important it is if you get the chance to get that level 3 helmet, especially if you find out you're close to him in the lobby. He is absolutely slapping everyone on all angles. PMA just about trying to make a move up on the northern side, but on the opposite end of the zone, New Gen trying to hold out as Buriram have made a cross over the river. It's very late, but Checksing on the off angle has caught Neil T, trying to lean one side of the tree, but wasn't quite enough. The pre-nade from underneath the bridge doesn't quite connect, and nor do the shots from Evil Patrick, which is unfortunate. He's been doing a lot of damage this game, but when it counts, when the opportunity was there to pick up the points from them, wasn't quite on point.
Shen and Sophia taking a lot of damage there as you saw the vehicle just completely shredded and smoking. Theraton 5 looking to push with vehicles their own. MSC are posted, however, and ready to fight it. Eddie goes down to the nade. The Molotov on the back of the smoke as well kind of prevents him from being able to get out cleanly. Youngby does decide to open that distance up again as New Generation are in such a tricky position. Cheating throws down a smoke, and Buram just going to wait to reset before capitalizing onto this. Remember, Diana is still going to be down. We'll be able to call that out to his team as Youngby down to 1 HP, misses the spray. And well, New Generation in trouble. Not as much trouble as PMA are in, though.
Yeah, that's just very Nordra, isn't it? As soon as he peeks out and gets the spray on the teammate, instant SLR headshot, and Youngby forced back the opposite way. Cerberus, they're being forced on a very wide foot rotate along the riverbanks to try and get around Archangel Predator and maybe just hope that they forget about them or just catch them looking in opposite direction if another engagement comes through, but there's no one there for them to engage with just yet. Teraton 5, a successful push to make a move onto MS Chumbori, force them back into the compound. Ranger X actually wiped out PMA in the standings as well. And now the zone has shifted into sort of no man's land. You've got SGD lurking towards the southern side of the zone who can hold out. The likes of Archangel Predator, New Generation, Buram, and if Cerberus can make it past Archangel Predator, them as well. But Sololzi's already down. Hymas is running very low on stims and meds, and Nan's still lurking very, very close. He's going to be heard very soon if he has to make this sprint to get into the compound, and might be going down to the blue zone, if not Archangel Predator.
It's tricky, and it's ultimately going to be for next to nothing if he's not able to get a kill out of it, which is looking so unlikely. Ranger X will be spotted out on rotation, as it looks like Theraton 5 want to play in towards Trick's position. Credit to Hymas for being able to get the knock, but Mad Dog trades it. It may even convert into a kill, so that zone is going to be closing through. Theraton 5, though, Patapon goes down first to Genius. Trix peeks out the side and eliminates Theraton 5 out in 10th position, but Buram looking to move up the hill, and Nordra playing point, nade in hand, tries to toss it up. Is it close to Cloris? Apparently so, but fortunately he's just gained enough distance to not go down to it. Cheeksing is eliminated as Nordra tries to keep their hopes alive. Yuta trades it back. Buram in some real trouble. All it's going to take now is one shot with this bolt after being caught from the side angle, and Nordra's going to be out of it, but as he jiggle peeks around the side, he's taken a lot of damage, but still no kill.
Nordra just doing all he could to confirm the kill before he inevitably will go down, and he actually survives long enough to grab a placement point out of it as well for Buram. But very different scenes now on the leaderboard as in the previous game. It was our top 5 in the standings that made the top 5 in the game. This time, look at that chunk of teams straight down the middle, and whoever comes out the winner of this will get a huge boost, potentially up as far as 2nd place, depending on the amount of kills and who it is to pick it up. And SGD are really wanting to make sure it's them. They're already climbing very efficiently up the standings, and Molotov just dodges out of Julio, sort of airbends it out of the way, and Sophia creeping his way forwards, can't get out of the way of the shrapnel though. Metal bending not in his forte.
Sophia going to swing round the side as Shen does exactly the same. He's able to open up with his first knock onto Xiaoman, and that's MSC out. SGD starting to stack up those points. Hopefully that is the sign of the change that we were looking for, and the confidence starting to come into effect. The circle shifts up to the north as E-Arena now getting caught in the pinch and punished. Only going to be one player left as Genius with the long range shots also start to switch their attention over towards Day Trade now.
Just third-party fest once again up north. It was always been this way. It always has been. And unfortunately, it's the teams that were coming out, the beneficiaries of it earlier on, are now forced to fight between themselves as the Hilltop just really not favoring any other position. But for Daytrade, they now need to be careful because their backline is being threatened. SGD have hopped in the vehicles and rotated up towards the western side of this zone, and Daytrade now find themselves in a position that could very well end up similar to E-Arena's positioning. They know very well that they have to turn back around and handle this threat more so than they need to farm the one kill point that awaits them up north. Belmoth prone in the grass. He's looking the right angle, but doesn't spot the head of Sophia in time. Jervis will pop up and finish the job after he's softened up, but Flash is there for the trade. But he's not peeking the right-hand side. Sophia can just pop up at any second. The blue zone still creeping forwards. He's not going to get a chance. Shen has just done the dirty work for SGD. Norin's down, switches his attention over, takes Flash down with him. And SGD have crept their way up all the way into the top 3.
With 13 kills on the board to go with it as well, that makes it so impressive. And considering they didn't have a kill before this match, they have stepped things up big time. Simon T still looking for an opening for Genius as he tries to find Trick a little bit further down the hill, but ultimately can't find an angle through those windows and just has to sweep instead. Trick will prep a smoke. That should be the info that Genius were looking for to work their way down. Equally so, SGD could misread this and think it's Genius making a push instead. Simon still focused as he knows what's going on. SGD slowly sweeping as Genius do exactly the same things. You have to think that Lyrix is in a horrible position now and really doesn't stand much chance of making it out.
He's dropped the backpack for as much visibility reduction as possible, but just eyes from all angles. Yuta, unfortunately for all of us, has put the bolt action down, but with the mini, he's going to be a little bit more effective at those rapid fire shots, and which is what you're going to need to be on point against a squad like SGD. Oh, Lyrix, he's got an opportunity here. There's 2 lined up, but he needs to be very careful because if this flush doesn't come through immediately, Sophia is so close to his right-hand side, so ready to pounce on the shots. He switched over the 3x to the AK for the close range fight. He's just biding his time, waiting, doesn't want to pounce too soon. He wants to try and wait for the engagement to be forced between SGD and Genius first.
Lyrix knows how important this shot could be, or these shots, as you can just see him tracking Sophia. And all of that movement, Genius have gone for a reposition. They need to try and finish off Trick, but SGD have so much control of this northern zone. They seem completely unaware of the arena's final player. SGD moving up further and further as Nade Smoke start to come through in the hope of connecting onto Genius, but they are completely unaware of what lays behind them. Yuta throwing down flashes of his own, as Leo just going to be forced to wait a little bit longer. 20 seconds till phase 7 makes a move, and Lyrix is showing such discipline on this front. He sees Shen. It almost looked like Shen had spotted him, but no, it's not going to be the case as E-Arena Lyrix. He is terrified right now. You can tell that vest is nearly shredded. If he's spotted, the chances are he's not returning the fire.
It's good moves from Shen to watch the backline, but they didn't spot him out, and that could very well be the downfall of SGD. They've got a huge hold on the northern side, and the push has come through from Genius. That's going to be the call for SGD to start making a move, to start pushing, start getting aggressive, thinking that backside is completely clear. That 2% chance. We've seen crazier things in APAC than a solo in this position pick up a win in a PCS event, but work is very much cut out for Lyrix, but he needs a little bit of assistance from GE, and maybe they would appreciate a bit of assistance from him in taking down SGD, who look to be pretty on fire this game, but it could fall apart so quickly at the hands of the solo.
The ideal world right now for Lyrix is SGD eliminate Genius, but with a 3-for-3 trade and SGD remain as a solo. That's the ideal scenario. We'll see how it ends up going, as he can't even really stand up to make a push. Shen, though, stands up and makes a lot of noise with that SLR. Decent amount of damage coming through. Same being said for Sophia, but Lerix is still just waiting, and that zone is pushing him in. He might actually be forced to fight soon enough, just because in phase 7, you can't spend as long in the zone as you'd maybe hope for. Lerix is right behind. Leo is completely unaware as that zone just closes in. He's getting him some meds. He can't even stand up. It would give too much noise away, but he's just about inside zone now, and it's time to start healing. Lerix is pulling off the clutch of the century if this works out, but Genius, they're just slowly but surely getting corralled by SGD, and it looks like Jervis opens things up. Zest falls, and now is the opportunity for SGD to strike. Nades come up the hill in the hope of getting a flush, but they are split to the point where they have to really take these fights individually. Leo goes for the spray, but doesn't spot Simon make the cross, and Lerix, well, he is spotting everything right now, just waiting for Sophia to make a mistake, for anyone from SGD to finish off Genius. Then he can start stealing the points. Shen takes down Yuta with the long-range spray. Simon T's gonna deny to zone, and now it comes down to Lerix as the final player for E-Arena in a 1 versus 4. SGD is so confused. They thought it was a 4-man they were up against, and now they've just gone down to zone. They know there's a solo. They just don't know where. Lerix is waiting, and it looks like SGD are completely running around like headless chickens. They have no idea about this solo, and if Lerix peeks up Saga, Sophia is quickly going to feel the brunt of it. Shen, maybe realizing the edges aren't completely clear, throws out nades, but they are just clueless right now.
I think a knock and a flush is pretty much the best that Lerix could hope for, but I think he started to toss out a flashbang or two. Sophia knows exactly where he's lurking at right now, and he's pushing back towards it. So if Lerix can catch him unawares, get the knock, get the flush, that's really his final contribution, but he doesn't get the flush in time. That extra half second of vulnerability that was recently added, the damage reduction on knocked players, it's too much for him to deal with, and SGD technically still 4 men up at the end, close out a game with a huge number of kills. This is what we've expected to see from them the whole time, and while they didn't quite live up to that in games 1 and 2, game 3 certainly showed exactly why we have big expectations for SGD.
I can't believe that, Saga. I really thought that there was a chance, but unfortunately it wasn't to be. There's only so much you can do with that 3x AK. It's a skill that I wish I possessed, because that thing is tough to handle, but really, really impressive from SGD. And we mentioned so many times tonight, this is a squad with so much potential. Now that they've got this win, now they've got that confidence and they know what they're capable of, it might be the time to start seeing that change, but it kind of throws everything out of the window when we say, okay, that's it for Erangel, it's time for Miramar. But maybe that's the opportunity for SGD to shine again.
It certainly could be, and well, there's a couple of other teams that we know historically performing better on Miramar as well, but we've seen huge things from many of our teams so far on Erangel. Cerberus still the standout performer, but SGD have closed that gap to a massive degree with the kills and the placements they picked up in the previous game. 25 on the board there or thereabouts, very similar to what Cerberus picked up in our very first game of the event of the day of PCS as a whole, as APAC being the first region to compete. SGD, though, bouncing back in fantastic fashion, and really we were hoping to see a little bit of third-party action coming in towards the late stages of the game. We were hoping that the engagement between SGD and Genius would be maybe a little bit more even, so that Lerix had a chance to pounce and spring the trap, but they just completely wiped out Genius before they even had a chance to fight back.
I think SGD are a really interesting squad to look at, because you kind of have two opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of PUBG players. You have somebody like Sophia, who's been around since PUBG's inception, has competed at the top level for such a long time. Then you look at players like Shen, who are young, only just able to actually play in a PTS event, now taking part. You have both ends of the spectrum, and it feels like in those first two games, it was maybe you could put it up to nerves, you could put it up to a bit of miscommunication, some bad rotations. Now that they've got things together, real promise, but ultimately Cerberus, even after losing 2 players very early on, were able to get a couple of points out of that match and continue to grow their lead. But I think it's Buram that really are stealing the show in terms of consistency.
Yeah, they've been right up there in just about every game that we've had so far, which is maybe a little bit of a different appearance to what we've seen from Buriram, but I think that they know that their best bet of making PGC, considering they didn't qualify for PCS 6, is to be consistent, is to make sure that they're getting a top-end placement, maybe not necessarily winning the whole thing, but making sure that they're within the top 3 back to winning ways in APAC. And if they can make it that far, they have a very realistic chance of getting to PGC, just considering the amount of teams in the top 12 that competed in PCS 6 that didn't make it this time around. And well, Genius is another team in a similar boat who that team didn't exist by the time PCS 6 was around, and finally seeing some good performances from them as well. They want to be a team that can climb their way up the standings. SGD as well, another team that wasn't around by the time PCS 6 came around, but in PCS 7 they're looking to stamp their mark and steal away a PGC slot in Dubai at the end of this year. And a lot of eyes, a lot of expectations on this man, and in game number 3 he certainly lived up to them.
Man, he is making a change now to my fantasy team. I'm happy about it. It was lacking before, but hopefully they're going to start turning things around. Cerberus ultimately, though, hold on to first place, but I mean, the distance has decreased definitely after that massive chicken dinner from SGD. Buriram still up there in the top end of things, even having dropped a couple of points last game, but you feel like it's only a matter of time for a team like Buriram till they have just one game that's 25 points and we're back to level playing.
Yeah, it really is only a matter of time, and it's kind of what we were expecting. It's only a matter of time before SGD was able to do it as well. They've done it now, it's over, and so it is our Erangel games. And so, of course, is the winning streak of Cerberus after back-to-back wins in our first 2 games, and 11th place with 0 kills. It's a little bit day and night for Cerberus, so hoping that they can pick up the pace once again, and a switch of maps could be a nice refreshing change of pace for them as well. FTF made a first time appearance in the top 4 this time around as well, got them up towards a top 10 position, which is great to see. More of the teams that were towards the bottom end of the standings having big performances, but it's not been looking good so far. Our first 3 games has left us with both of our OCE teams down at the bottom 2 slots in the lobby, just getting caught up in a lot of third party, a lot of early game sends was a downfall for Origami Orangutans. And E-Arena, they knew what they were doing that time around, and it worked out very well, got them a 2nd place at the very end of it too. So hopefully we can see things go a little bit more in favor of OCE, and they can start to balance out the standings a little bit.
Yeah, it's not been great news for OCE, and I got more bad news for everybody. We've had a little bit of a delay with game number 4, so we're going to take a very short break, but I promise you we'll be back as quickly as we can with game number 4, switching over to Mirror.
All clear on the roof. Heading back down.
Roger. Hurry up. We need to move.
Just make sure I don't take a bullet in the back.
Looking good. Keep it steady.
I hear footsteps. I got a bad feeling.
Enemy spotted. Move! Move!
You're going up next time.
There won't be a next time.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafter's Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here. So drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Apologies for the delay, but we are back with PCS APAC, and in just about a minute, we're going to be getting into our fourth game of the evening. More importantly, our first Miramar game of the evening. We've touched a lot on about how teams like Buram tend to thrive a bit more over on that map, but I think that switching it up after such explosive games for the teams that maybe typically do well on a rank but maybe struggle a bit more on Miramar, it's going to be a tough one because they are already at such a disadvantage going into things just because of how many points have been sponged at the top.
And it really has been a little bit less certain about the whole hot drop situation this time around on Miramar. I know we had drop maps put together and everyone was playing very passively, but this time around there is a few that are still question marks. I was watching some of like the scrims and some other events as well. The likes of north side of Los Leones has been contested by Team Bliss and Icarus Cyber. El Pozo is a big question mark as to whether the Expendables are going to come under any threat this time around as well. But we will have to wait and see. But we won't have to wait very long at all. I very much expect, once again, a lot of teams having shifted around in their drop locations. We might see a little bit more of that vehicle chaos, some players getting run over early on as the lobby sort of irons itself out of who is exactly claiming what as the games get underway for the whole 6-day series.
It is time for Miramar, and importantly, a very northern to very southern plane path.
Practically straight down the middle. Oasis down towards the eastern side of the south side islands, and it gives us a lot of opportunities to just have a quick glance around at where exactly teams are headed. It actually looks like nobody is going to El Pozo at all. That's interesting, considering there's so many teams that in their home region would take that as a drop spot. Origami Orangutans being one, the Expendables another. So really not a big surprise to see that that is not even taken, let alone contested. But
oh, here it is.
See whether that continues on. Yeah, there we go. There is a hot drop, of course. It's the Expendables, filling in the space that was left behind by Unicorn Phoenix not qualifying, and of course Archangel Predator trying to do the same. Well, figured out where they went.
It was only a matter of time until this happened. Let's be honest here. I mean, Hacienda of all places to hot drop is probably one of the most awkward, and I'm just excited to see where the circle pops, because whenever there's a hot drop, you know it's not going to be inside zone. It's got to be a Monte Nuevo circle, though, as I think that is going to surprise a lot of teams. I think they were maybe expecting it to be a whole lot more central than that. That's probably about the furthest west a circle with that plane path could have gone. As now, Expendables, they aren't really too concerned about the circle. They just need to win this fight. It looks like they are going to be grouping up, but as Mad Dog plays up on the roof, Duck Juice going to try do the same. Expendables just sweeping through, listening out for any movement. So now they have that high ground control. Mad Dog still yet to expose himself, maybe just waiting for his teammates to make a call and say, hey, there's somebody above us, time to peek.
Really are these hot drop connoisseurs in the Expendables. He really couldn't have gone a whole event without it for this squad. Of course, Attack All Around not taking the fight into Pachinki this time around and opting not to fight SGD, but Archangel Predator in Hacienda. Not that they know that it's Archangel Predator, unless it was a bit of a predetermined battle between the two.
Ooh.
Oh, the Duck Juice pops up over the top, and Mad Dog, vestless, helmetless on the roof. Light work for a double barrel shotgun. Long range taps, though, with the iron sights from the M16. A headshot will come through, but there's a helmet there for Ninja. Shotgun from that range is not going to be doing as much work as you're hoping. But look at 777. He's behind enemy lines. But of course, a hot drop on Miramar. Who's going to third party it? It's always Buram. This was the way back in PGC as well. I still remember Paper Thin calling Nordra a jerk, but 777 this time gets out shotgunned close range by Nan. I'm just lurking to see what points they can pick up. Look at them creeping in as well.
Expendables look to try and keep this one alive, but it ain't looking promising as Sheikzing plays point. As soon as he spots that knock, well, it's going to be getting flushed out. It doesn't appear that they know exactly where it is, though, as they get ready to nade inside, looking for a third party a little bit too far. do they know? Cheeksing closes up as now Ninja has to switch his attention.
back.
He will be able to spot out Duck Juice down pro. But Patrick, with 1 bullet left, makes it count. The double barrel, so deadly at close range. Levies goes down. It's all onto Ninja. Here's Cheeksing going up top as CJ able to spot down Eddie on the rotate. Cheeksing tries to peek, but the tree is actually going to block the angle, so it's not getting spotted. Patrick spots out Nordra, but that's just useless when Nordra has shots like that. The helmet shredded. Molotov appears to be landing close. Expendables trying their best. The nade is there. It flushes out Eddie, but Cheeksing still up and alive. Buram not being kind of forced off of this. It feels like a lot of times when you go for a third party, you lose a player, you back away, but not this team.
Somebody calls Xenox. We've got some mutually assured destruction going down, and it's the same elsewhere as well. Shotguns just all across Miramar, and it's not even Teddy with a sawn off this time, but it looks like a bit of a full send from SGD just to claim away some positioning not too far away from Daytrade's drop spot, and Daytrade was not expecting that, of course. Not typical opponents. Okay. Well, that's a car down and a man down for Buram. Nordra at least will get out of there safe and just leave the Expendables and Archangel Predator to continue their shotgun battles, but it's going much, much better for AAP. This time, Ninja 2K, last man standing. He's just lurking still.
Oh, he's put the gas can down. He's got the gas can by the doorway. He is ready for this push to come through from Archangel Predator, but it's the wrong door. And Patrick shuts it down. That would have been an amazing trap if it worked out, though.
Yeah, if he'd have taken the time just to spread it all across the floor and could have just set the whole team alight, that would have been huge. But unfortunately for the Expendables, it's not going to be the case. And well, this time around, they will be our first team eliminated, but they won't be alone as Daytrade once again have lost more than one in the previous game to SGD, and they've lost another this time around as well. Sophia lurking with the shotgun on Miramar, but they just got completely wiped out. Shen, quick little 1-2, turns around, picks up the second. That's what we expect to see from him.
Shen is a kid who just after his 18th birthday hot dropped Gen G and consistently won. So for anyone who was maybe wondering why we hype this guy up so much, there's good reason. He in terms of mechanical prowess, he is up there. And in that last game, it was demonstrated by the 5 kills on the board. But I mean, the top 4 kills all being taken by SGD. I think it shows how dominant that previous game was.
It was pretty brutal for most teams in the lobby, and it wasn't even really all of the third partying that came into the effect. That was up towards the very top end northern side of the zone. They didn't get involved in any of that until quite late on. They were just hard sweeping the southern side of the zone and wiping teams out, just face-to-face engagements. And now they've already dealt some damage onto Daytrade, who are still hoping that they can get back to their dominant fashion, their dominant form from the previous PCS event. Fortunately, not able to quite do so, and they are down to a 3-man early on. They're also being pressured somewhat by both E-Arena and PMA, who have good positions down the western side. There it is. Flash rocks up into this position. Sophia is already there, lurking, shotgun in hand, maybe anticipating the move. Whether that's a homework that's been done onto Daytrade, and they know that on a circle like this, they like to take this position and got there early. That's the kind of thing that Sophia likes to do. Make sure you know what the other teams are doing and know your enemy, know yourself.
Sophia is one of those players who is just able to kind of read a game very well. Obviously, being such a veteran player, he knows kind of what are the go-to moves, and I think that he sets the squad up in a way to try and hold that out. It's the reason why we saw them fight Cerberus in that previous match. They're fighting Daytrade now, another very dominant team, and it just shows that sometimes counter-stratting works, but if we go back to game 1 and 2, it doesn't. Let's put it like that. Genius, though, they haven't really been doing too many strategies as such. It's more so being, okay, let's plow this team down and see where we go next. As SGD, it's Shen's turn to shine. He's got the shotgun, and Skeet is going to be moving his way through. Nade bounces off the side, doesn't connect as MSC look to try and consolidate. SGD try and do the same. Sophia up top wants to provide that fire support, but it's not going to be easy with Teddy watching from range.
Might get a bit of a wrong information about the third party and shots coming through, maybe expecting that it's a wider split than it actually is. But Leo being caught off on the maneuver is a big win for MS Chonburi. Of course, SGD saw what they're able to do when they've got 4 men strong and sweeping the zone, and now Cerberus are getting involved. They want to get back to the dominant team in the lobby sort of fashion, and seeing that SGD is taking losses early on, they definitely want to be involved in this team and their demise. Shen, he doesn't know that Skeet is just lurking on the other side of the door, but
he's waiting.
If he does open that up and a quick little pump,
he's
heard the steps, he knows.
He is waiting with that shotgun. He knows exactly where they are. He is trained onto them. Here's the player up top and is just really waiting for that door to open. I don't think Jervis or Sophia can really get into such a helpful position right now, but if Sophia can maybe do some damage from above, then it could expose Skeet and take it down to 1 versus 1 in this compound. If MSC don't group up, though, there's going to be some real trouble. Shen preps the nade. It is going to be a little bit late, but it still bounces and lands onto Xiaoman. Anyway, Hazaki also trying to get involved from range as SGD try to group up in the vehicle and work their way into this compound. It's just before the next phase pops, though, as Shen has got up on the roof now, because of course he does. Shotgun waiting for anyone to overexpose, but the zone has just cut both teams out, and it's going to be a brutal rotate to get in.
This is also a brutal disengage to try and make for either of these teams, knowing that they're so close. If they try and fall back to vehicles, they know that people are going to be right up there spraying by the time you get any sort of acceleration. Not the case for a few other teams like E-Arena, who were holding a split on either side of the valley on the high ground. They've got across for free and have a fantastic hold on the western side of the zone. Origami Orangutans as well with a big 2-2 split to try and work with. Shen is going to try and fall back. We hear a shotgun being loaded above him. He's getting prepared for another nade to go through, trying to get the bounce on Skeet. It does get some damage to the doorway, but not enough. Monty, he softens them up long enough. And Mirage coming in with the final bullet. Sololzi finally down, and Team Bliss on the board for game number 4.
That was impressive from them to finish Team Bliss off so easily. Sorry, to get those points so easily as now MSC look to do the same. Shen has been able to disengage from this fight. Ultimately, does not want to fully back away. It feels like this is going to be a slow burn for at least until phase 2 is closed in, right?
It sure seems that way. I don't think either of these teams are willing to let another get away after they've been jostling for quite so long. Cerberus, though, on the other hand, more than happy just to get in their vehicles, take a few warning shots, and just cruise their way in towards the center of the zone. Yeah, there's the full maneuver, but Shen, just put a 4x on it. Why not? A huge spray down. He's dropped the mini already for the shotgun. He's still getting the damage in towards MSC. A quick reload cancel as well, and that Murado is not looking too healthy either.
Really, really good attempt there with the spray and doing a lot of damage. Now, SGD could set themselves up in a position where they just want to keep shooting this Murado, realizing, hey, there's 2 players inside it. That's a vehicle limit that MSC have kind of put on themselves that we can attempt to deny. Van Yee, though, is in a very tricky position trying to defend against Cerberus. Seat swap doesn't work out, but they saw the movement. Molotovs come through. One of them actually lands on Tycoon. Looks like Hazaki got caught from range as well, but in the end, it's not going to be enough, and Cerberus will remain standing, at least for now. New generation nowhere to be found, as Hymus just going to be looting up, popping his boost, getting ready to make a move, but Rain is there to try and shut it down before it starts.
I was really clean from Cerberus to anticipate the pre-nade to come through on the side that they were breaching from, so they went all the way around. Pre-nade was ineffective. The Molotov was decent, got some damage in, but even if they are hip firing, there's 3 players running at you all alone. There's very little that Vanji could do from that position, and very familiar with Cerberus after being a large part of their competition under Unicorn Phoenix for a long while. Sophia, the vehicle on fire. He had to hop out. There's nowhere to go. Fortunately, hits himself with it and feeds a free point over to MS Chonburi. That's half of SGD taken out by the boys in blue. Managed to fall back completely free to a wide open warehouse as well on this eastern side of the zone, which is very likely to get some circle favor very soon, considering the amount of space on the west. Well, let's have a quick look to see whether or not I've lied. Okay. Wow.
Look,
so we've kept a lot of the mountain over to the west, but E Arena are big chilling.
I'm going to let you off this one, Saga, because I think most people
What
would
is
have
that?
assumed that this late in the game we're going to get a hard shift, but the fact is that land ratio is only coming in next zone. So players like Grain right now are sitting pretty in this. Everybody has to come towards them. Rest the squad are down the hill, and I'm sure Rain is going to be able to group up with his squad relatively easily, considering he's got a bike tucked away that they're not going to be able to pop tires on. The rest of Origami Orangutans now grouping up together. There's 20 seconds till that zone moves. Everybody needs to try and find an opening. You have to kind of think that eastern hillside is going to be where the majority of those teams end up, just because of the shift and how many ridges there are on it. Genius, though, they're going head first into the zone, and Teddy, well, he takes Clory's head clean off, and it's only Simon T left here until Zest comes in for support.
Tries to get a pre-nade down, anticipating a re-breach to come through, but it went an opposite direction. That is a good little off angle as well, holding both sides, but it's so back and forth in the compound. Simon T does manage to secure a flush. That's a disgusting mid-air spray from Utah to sit down Mr. Clay with the M249. Is an ambitious one to try and put to use. It doesn't quite work out, but Clory's down. It's down to technically a 1v2 in the compound until Clory's is flushed away, but Teddy and Pete more than happy to commit to this push. But uh-oh, here we go again. Another re-breach to come through, this time from MS Chamburi, third party in the compound, and it's going to be the demise of both teams. And there it is, Teddy with the sawn-off in the kill feed. We already got one. Let's go.
Barrage is down, so are PMA as they go down in 15th position. MSC look to try and clean up this final player. That's if they even know about him, as the Molotov goes over the top of that wall. Skeet will be getting spotted, but Jowman is there to return it. The Molotov didn't really have any success this time around, as Utah just going to rely on smokes, but it really will just take a frag or a Molotov to finish off this fight. Luckily for him, it's things that MSC don't have after crashing into this compound. Flashbang comes up the top, but ultimately there's nothing being pushed off of this. I know that Toby would be fuming right now because there is just no movement, no matter how many nades are thrown. Jowman did see something through the window, but I don't think Utah was able to spot it out, or at least spot it out and find an angle that he can actually capitalize off of. Smoke is there, but honestly, I think MSC are just happy leaving him be, letting him burn through his utility for the time being. I say that, the flash connected, that could be their opportunity to push.
If they find some bodies out here, there will be, no doubt, grenades available. They almost found Clory's, but couldn't quite get it, but just straight up dry peek up the staircase.
There it is. Double
Double push from MS Chamburi. And that's job done. Shen is now on the opposite side of the valley, just watching over to see if he can try and deal some damage on the maneuver. But once again, Team Bliss forced into a rough rotate to try and make Bryn, again, the last man standing. Tycon just peppers him from distance, and that's Team Bliss eliminated well outside of the placement points again. They got 2 kills on the board this time around, but a little more that they've been able to do so far. Origami Orangutans, though, still do have a very solid position. Need to be a bit cautious of the push coming in from the north for Teraton 5, but for now, they've actually dealt a ton of damage onto E Arena as they try to regroup their split, but it's too little too late. They had a prime position, but they just got a little bit overzealous at holding a 2-2 split towards the center of the compound. Needed to regroup maybe as like half a zone earlier, and they could have gotten away with it, but waited until the breach from Archangel Predator came through. It was a little bit too late, but now Archangel Predator getting breached by MS Chamburi again. They want all the smoke.
I was about to say they should have heard the vehicles a little bit sooner, but unfortunately left it till the last second. Doesn't matter when you land a nade like that, though. Archangel Predator shuts things down. CJ and Nan working together to find a massive group of kills, but surprise, surprise, they see a fight. They want points. Theraton 5 making a crash their own. Patrick was able to do a little bit of damage, but we've already seen just how dangerous these frags can be. If they bounce incorrectly, Ranger X takes a little bit of damage, but it's Rain from afar to take that headshot and eliminate the first player of Theraton 5. It doesn't matter, though, because they clean things up, and it's Archangel Predator to fall Shen just sneaking his way through. I thought he would have been able to close the distance, but Akita and Kang have now spotted him. He's going to have to drop down. Prone finds the spray. A flush and a knock to go with it, but with 9 HP, that's the end of Shen. A decent number of points on the board for SGD.
If Rossitid can get over, he should be able to grab these revives. Now, you might be able to criticize a lot about APAC, but you really can't doubt the commitment of these players. MSC full flying in, T5 with the rebreach, and Shen rocking up to try and capitalize and steal away some points. They should all be able to crawl to safety and get all 4 back standing. No, 3 back up on their feet. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. Maybe they won't have a chance if Rip and the Origami Orangutans are looking to breach on this compound as well. They might just have time to get Ranger X back up, but he won't have time to heal. They're looking to expand their control on the northern side, and they're bringing a fresh set of utility to do it with.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Origami Orangutans haven't had to use any of that utility as of yet. Rossitid, the rest of Theraton certainly have. They're going to be able to open things up. It's Akita with the headshot onto Pat Pong, but is quickly traded out by Rossitid. Goes for the wide peak, but Kang is even wider and able to get the jump. Ranger X as the solo opens up through the doorway. Kang swings out wide. Both players down to low HP, but it's Ranger X who comes out on top. He's looking for the flushes as finally Rip swings out, keeps his team in it, but it was a close one. 5 kills on the board and 40 seconds to get a new position inside zone.
Rain on the opposite side has to be quite instrumental in doing some scouting to find it for them. That's what we like to see from Origami Orangutans. Adaptation to the lobby, no sitting back, no passive OCE style, but punishing the aggressive maneuvers of APAC, and there's no one left to third party onto them.
Oh, Canaxi.
Oh my god, Trick. Oh my god, Canaxi missed a bullet or two, and Trick did not hesitate. Completely annihilated him.
Canaxi is such a good player. That's just one of those things where you maybe spray a little bit behind where you intended to and you're just never able to adjust. As from the future now, try and make the most out of this. Credit to Trick, though, for that flick. It was so impressive to watch. He's still not inside zone, though. From the future, trying to get control of this compound from Buriram by the looks of things. But as Nordra moves in for that support, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get. Man still watching as fire comes in from all around. Daytrade will likely try and third party if they get the opening, but they're preoccupied with a rotate of their own. E-Arena sitting pretty, and well, in terms of this Daytrade rotate, Monkey trying to do the same.
Monkey.
I'm just going with Monkey now. It's easier than saying the full name.
It really is. It's a fun one to say. Origami Orangutans, man. They're creeping their way forward, but we've really got to look over at the western side of the zone and say it's uncontested for one team in particular. It's Cerberus. Oh, he closed the door on Chexing. Couldn't get the spray. Delta Mix never had a chance, but Teddy again, with the sawn off. What an absolute connoisseur of that weapon. He proved how good it is. He's actually somewhat of a bit of a meta changer as he brought that to the forefront at Nations as well to great effect, and here as well. But in the end, it will be Man who is the last one standing and managing to get everyone back on their feet for FTF. Buriram denied another appearance in the top 4 this time around. Couldn't quite get it done, but it was close.
I feel like we should be playing Scrim Bingo right now with some of these. The sword off, that is
Really?
That's a rare one to get checked off, even in the scrims, as Origami Orangutans now going to try and get up to their usual monkey business, cause a bit of a distraction, a bit of a pain in the side of E-Arena. It seems like they're already focused and surrounded. Down goes Rip, as more likely to follow. If just a couple bullets connect through, the nade is close. That's going to be the end of them. As Akita goes down, it's the Shotsu finish off the job. Origami Orangutans out in 7th, only netting themselves 1 placement point, but it's still points.
Wow. What a zone for Cerberus. They have the entire ridge. They've got Hisaki lurking on the back line, holding the off angle. The only threat is potentially a team like Icarus Cyber hopping in vehicles, wrapping around the west and getting up behind them, but they're not worried about it at all. Tycon, close range, sits Sapnix down, flushes him out as well from close range with the mini, and the push from Daytrade looking to creep their way into the compound, lurk and maybe pick off E-Arena as they just made a disengage after wiping out Origami Orangutans. It's going to amount to no points for them, but it just funnels the team right directly into the eyes of Cerberus. We're just picking up more and more. Now FTF have rocked up behind Daytrade as well. They're in a treacherous position. And that's a huge spray from Diane and Youngby. That's half of FTF gone immediately.
Nicely done. Decent damage on the board, but they need to start converting that into kills here, New Generation, as sure, the placement's good, but those kills are just a whole lot more valuable in a lobby of this where it is so top heavy in certain times. From the future, look to try and brighten up their day with the 3x if he can peek over and find the opening, which he can. Looks for a second onto Pooch Hills, but not quite following. Nurns is going to go for that flank, and you've got to think he should be able to get the knock to go with it. Only Trick left up, goes for a seat swap, and well, that's the end of From the Future out in 5th. We've confirmed our top 4. What I find interesting about this, though, Saga, is just how many low end teams are still up. New Generation and Icarus Cyber. And it looks like our 5th place team potentially going to get taken out here by Cerberus. Nade lands onto Poochills, but it's Imus in the end who finds the spray, shuts things down. Daytrade out. It's a 3v3v3, and New Generation are just surrounded here.
It's an all Vietnamese final 3, but look at Cerberus, 50% win rate. I'd argue that's too low right now, looking at the position of Haisaki still holding the opposite side of the road. They're just running it straight down at each other in the shack. Fap underhands a Molotov through. It sets Neil T on fire and forces him out into the open, and might just be a little bit too late. Youngby tried to get out of there, but Hymus has the off angle as well. Fap finishes the job onto Dayan. It's 3 versus 3, but the surround, look at how much space Cerberus have to work with. This is going to be a 3rd win, surely, for them.
If Cerberus get a 3rd win, you have to wonder what exactly is going to stop them. But as we've seen so often in APAC, it can change week to week, day to day. Haizaki will be going for a flank, but it looks like Icarus Cyber are prepared for this. Honestly, if I was in Haizaki's position, and obviously I'm not as good, I'd just be anchoring down, waiting, not really causing too much of a distraction. But that's the difference between me and Cerberus, is they are going for these kills, even though Icarus have to come to them. Big spray and even bigger damage. AT hopping down prone, and it may just be a war of attrition here, trying to burn through that util, but with all of those bodies in the shack, got to think that's not the strategy you're looking for. Nade is going to be a little bit short. Cerberus, Haizaki, who's up even higher? Is he going to play this hillside? He's coming over the top. This could be massive, but thankfully Icarus are able to get away, even if they do catch a little bit of damage. They've just been corralled into a corner.
Oh, but it's temporary at best. It's not even going to last. Tycon, a double spray out of both in the vehicle. It's down to just Fap, and he's got a grenade in hand. Is it just going to be a case of tactical deny? Of course it is, because Cerberus, 65 points, 3 wins in 4 games. We are getting dangerously close to seeing a level of dominance that rivals PCS2. LG Divine, another Vietnamese team, won 5 of their first 8 games. Cerberus has more than half of that in less than half of the games. It's an incredible showing from them so far, and we really need somebody to step up to compete with them, because right now they are looking to run away with PCS7.
Look, I'm not trying to spoil the leaderboards, but I think everybody knows that Cerberus are in first here. But sure. I want to point out something that we'll get onto more when we actually get onto the leaderboards. Cerberus have a 30-point lead over 2nd place, and we are 4 games in. That is absurd, considering that SGD are already on 35 points. We'll get more into the leaderboard later, but honestly, that zone control from Cerberus at the end was so impressive, to take complete control of that area and not be afraid to split out. And the fact is, they knew that they had the cover, so they felt confident doing it. So I think that Cerberus have really demonstrated, and it's something I touched on after their last chicken dinner, they can win regardless of the scenario. We've seen it where they get the zone, we've seen it where they don't get the zone, and we've seen it where they completely control the zone regardless of how they got into it. I'm starting to worry that they're going to be unstoppable here, and I know that sounds bad, but we've still got so many more games to go. We don't want it all to be decided in day number 1. There's only 1 more game tonight, though, so hopefully not too much of a lead, and hopefully some teams down at the bottom end can start closing things back.
You know what's really crazy about this from Cerberus as well is obviously we know that they're cracked. Like half of the Vietnamese roster at Nations that got second place is on this team, but one of them's not even playing today. Duckmai is not on the roster. Tycon has come in, this 18-year-old talent, and like you cannot argue with the results so far. 3 wins, a stupid amount of kills, averaging what, 17 points per game at a lobby of this level is beyond absurd, and they're looking consistent in doing it as well. They obviously had the 0-pointer in game 3, but maybe that was just a bit of a breather for them. They were like, let's just have an hour break and come back and just smack everyone around again. Oh boy, we appear to have lost my mans. And so it looks like it's just me for now this time around. I think that's really the reaction, the response that all of us are looking for is, like, you look at this and you say, like, that's your reaction to looking at the leaderboard with Cerberus up at the top on so many points, so many games. They have absolutely dominated. There's very little else to say, realistically, at this point. We've got 1 game left to go today. And man, yeah, like 21 points on the board one more time. Again, we're all looking like chunks right now. That is how our face is responding as we look at the points. For the 3rd time, Cerberus in first place in just 4 games. 75% win ratio is unheard of. And almost every single time, 20 points plus as well. From the future with a big performance to get up into 2nd place. And wow, there he is, the young man. The young man himself, Tycon. 50% of his team's kills, almost 50% of the damage, 6 kills on the board. Ah, man, there is very little you can do when a team is this on fire. I mean, the hint is in the logo, the fire in the background. The fire is very much in the foreground here for PCS 7 APAC. Cerberus are completely running away with day number 1. 65 points on the board, 30 placement points, 35 kills. Now, there is the whole rest of the lobby to talk about, but right now they are the team that's on everybody's lips so far for PCS APAC. But SGD have come in. They had a very solid game number 3. The rest of the games not quite so on par with the level that they've been able to hit. Buriram have been fairly consistent as well. This time around weren't able to make it all the way to the late stages, but they have really done a lot of solid work. But look at that once again, 3 wins of 4 for Cerberus Esports. They are looking incredibly scary, as they have been recently as well. Their form it's just unbelievable stuff to see from the Vietnamese team, and there's a very good reason they so consistently qualify out of Vietnam as the number 1 seed from the region, but they rarely ever make it all the way to the top end of the lobbies in APAC. They've been top 4 pretty consistently. They've had a couple of stinkers, but this is very much not one of them so far for the day. I believe Chunks might be coming back pretty soon, so we will stop the podcast of mine and get back to regular scheduled me and Chunks on the desk. But once again, E-Arena, top 6 positioning, decent spot. Maybe got a little bit too aggressive with their 2-2 hold, so we've got a little bit to think about coming into game number 5. So what we will do, we'll chuck it to a quick break before we come back with our final game of the day. 1 more Miramar to go, and Cerberus, see whether they can take that one home as well.
Some updates to Destin, a new vehicle, and special new skins. All this and more as we dive into the Update 19.2 patch report. First up, Destin is getting some additional cover in several areas, as well as more cell towers, ascenders, and fuel pumps. You'll also now notice the passage of time and even shifting weather patterns in your Destin games. If your match is going long and you're starting to feel hangry, look out for the newest Battlegrounds vehicle, the food truck. This sturdy vehicle holds a driver and passenger, while up to 2 others serve up hot food and even hotter lead in the back. There's also new heavy stock in the game to try out on your favorite stock-slotted weapon. You may remember us talking about an animation refresh some time back. This update, you'll start to see the fruits of those efforts with new animations for all weapon operations and player motions. Check them out and let us know what you think. For those looking to really pimp their ride, we've added new special vehicle skins to the game. Our first set will turn your run-of-the-mill Coupe RB into a sleek and sexy McLaren GT. Customized paint, rims, and even your brakes. These customizations can be crafted in the workshop or by collecting rewards from the new McLaren Crafters Pass. But before you go betting your pink slip, while it may look like a McLaren, it still performs like a regular old coupe. There's quite a bit more to learn about these updates and more, so check out the patch notes for full details. Update 19.2 is here, so drop in, wax up that new McLaren, and serve up some chicken dinner, extra bullets. We'll see you on the battlegrounds.
Welcome back, everybody, to PCS 7 APAC. It is the final match of the day over here on Miramar. Cerberus have an insane lead, but maybe SGD could pull off a heroic performance and jump their way up to first. We want to keep it a bit more competitive, don't we, Saga, with the way things are currently stacking up.
Well, if you've been watching EU, I don't know about a heroic performance. Maybe a bit more of an over-peakers performance out there. But no, it really would be a huge achievement, really, for SGD to come back. And in fact, second place in their first appearance at PCS APAC is already very, very solid. But yeah, we definitely need to see just a tickle more from them. That ain't no MS Chambori. That would be Icarus Cyber on your screen right there. But you know what? We don't really even have time for that because we're coming back pretty much straight into the game. Icarus Cyber, you know what? They are a fairly newly formed team. Them and New Generation Esports came together, what, March, April this year? Not too long have they been competing together, and both of them making an appearance in the final three in the previous game, which is a big boost to their position in the standings. They've been languishing all the way through on Erangel, so a good start to Miramar, even though the kills maybe not looking the sleekest and sexiest, only 1 and 2 respectively, but the placement points are there, and that is the important thing, is just getting those points on the boards. We'll see whether they're able to do that in our final game of the day this time around, and we need to see some movement once again from OCE, both of them still rounding out the 15th and 16th place slots.
Well, final game of the evening. It is getting underway. It's going to be over on Miramar. But the big question for me, Saga, has to be, how many games can we put down as write-offs? Because it feels like we've had a lot of wacky zones that have been up in the air, and we've just said they were write-offs. But if that's becoming a pattern, we've got to make the most out of it. It is time for these teams to prove themselves in the final game of the evening on Miramar. Wacky zones have been a theme, and I don't expect that to stop anytime soon. And even if we do get a kind of pleasant regular zone, you've got to think, Saga, it's not going to be worth much with how aggressive these teams have been getting.
Yeah, really, so many engagements in the early phases. You just got to keep our eye on, once again, whether or not we're going to see the Expendables and Archangel Predator continue this scrap all throughout, particularly tomorrow, as we have 3 games of Miramar. The flight path this time may be leaning away from it, and Archangel Predator have actually come off the better of the hot drop, but opted not to get involved this time around. They're sticking towards the south coast, not too far away from where E-Arena are doing a little bit of a wide split down towards Val Del Mar and the surrounding areas. So Expendables will be uncontested this time for Hacienda, and that's kind of the story across the board, of course. Other than in Los Leones, Icarus Cyber and Team Bliss, they're sharing that space. You know, it's a big city. It is big enough for 2 teams to loot, but it's uncomfortably close, and you're always worrying, particularly on a zone like this, for Team Bliss. If they want to try and make a move out of the west side of the city, the Icarus Cyber could just be lurking dangerously close on any of the compounds. Oh, Jowman was trying to line up a headshot onto the vehicle, saw the parachute coming in, but Mutant, not really the prime weapon to land it.
Eddie gonna get away nice and safely. Buram remaining as a 4-man to kick things off, as I think we're going to focus in on Cerberus again. Not really surprised. I mean, we don't directly focus on him, but I think we have to, because 2 of their players are in the top 5 kills again, and that's just in the last game. I should probably pull up the stats for overall, because you've got to think Cerberus are just dominating the kill points at this moment. I mean, Tycoon currently has 11, Hymus, Hyzaki each with 9. Like, it's unmatched in terms of the fragging power on that roster.
Shout out to Rip for breaking the mold and not going for the classic esports arms crossed pose there, doing something a little fresh, a little new, and, you know, getting up there as well, getting some points on the board for Monkey Origami Orangutans, now on double digits. Team Bliss, the last to hit that threshold, unfortunately for them, and hoping that this will be the game to get them over there. And Beyond as well would be good for them, of course, as one of the teams that did perform in PCS 6 and did reasonably well, got themselves a top 5 placement. They are on the board already with PGC points, but being down in 16th place is not going to be good enough to hold on to that spot at PGC. So they're very much going to want to have a big comeback, and maybe this could be the start of it, get some momentum rolling for the rest of the weekend, and they could very easily, very quickly find themselves up in the top 5 and even beyond with just 1 or 2 very good games here.
I mean, that's the theme with so many squads, isn't there? If you're not Team Bliss, you can have one win and get up to, you know, 5th, 6th position. Bliss
Easily.
maybe need a little bit more, though. I mean, they're the only team currently on single-digit points. It's been disappointing for them. But at the same time, Saga, let's talk about Origami Orangutan. Sure, they're not much higher, but at least they're kind of proving that OC has that fragging power, and there is still fresh players coming in that can put in work and get some decent kills on the board.
That's a big thing. That's a big theme of APAC, is the young players that just keep popping up left and right. And there's 2 of them on your screen right now in Patton Pong and Xcrozit, 2 players who last year were playing in the academy leagues in Thailand. And that's right, they have academy leagues in Thailand. All the big teams have academy teams. Daytrade Nursery, shout out to them, is like my favorite name for the team, for an academy team. But that's where these players have come from. I bear in mind, Xcrozit, in a similar situation to Shen, he turned 18 just 3 days before PCS 6 and went on to compete and picked up a 2nd place at that event. So these young players constantly coming through, and Tycon as well, similar situation for Cerberus. I mean, we saw his stats in the previous game, absolutely cracked, and then to put them on these veteran rosters, get the experience, the leadership, it's a huge thing in APAC. The player base, the support is there, and it's good to see that in OCE that can still reflect as well.
KM9, oh, this could be dangerous for Archangel Predator, but they knew that door was open. They had a feeling something was happening. Nan, but the final second lands a shot from range, and well, that's the end of him. And the Arena being the first team to take a casualty in this match, but gotta think that with a zone like this and the position Archangel Predator are playing, being this split early on, they're going to be poised to potentially hold out a lot of rotations on a road like this. Daytrade looking to do the same with their split, but I think they're focused a bit more on the later game, realizing that, okay, there's water down here. We're just going to assume it's going to shift up to the north in a phase or 2.
Not surprised at all that Daytrade being a little bit more slow and cautious this time, just scouting out all the compounds around them properly before they just rock up and find Sophia with a shotgun lurking again. This time they are not really having to make much of a rotation out from Chumacera again, just out towards the eastern side. A zone like this, the little fortress compound in the center of the valley, just to the east of Chumacera, north of the high ground mountain, it's not prime real estate for kills, but for getting late game placements, it's practically a guaranteed 2nd place if you control that, and the phase 2 zone centers up around it. You're in a fantastic position. So they want to keep their options open. They're keeping presence on Church, and they're keeping presence on the west side mountain, but they are not letting anyone take that position away from them, because if the zone goes there, they are going to regroup on that, and that's pretty much it for the rest of the game.
Zizzy trying to prevent Archangel Predator from getting proactive here. If he can maybe trade it for a knock, it'll put them in a better position, but it's going to be his teammate, in fact, who opens up, and that trigger discipline kind of goes to waste now. The Arena have left Zizzy out on his lonesome at a crossroads with no one around. He should be able to group back up, but I wonder if maybe he wants to commit to this. Maybe his teammates are calling it as a fight they want to take, and Archangel Predator, exactly the opposite. They want to back off of this. They realize the hill's clear. Let's get over to safety.
Slow rotations now coming through. Team Bliss have just sort of lurked on the southwestern side of Los Leones. It will put them in a position to hear the rotation of Theraton 5, put in a couple of warning shots and force them south up and over the hilltop, which they won't be too upset about. It gives them good potential to scout forward, find some free space to make a send in towards, which they no doubt will do so. Very solid level of commitment from Theraton 5, as we saw in the previous game, and just sending it into a compound. And unfortunately for them, Monkey had the same level of commitment to rock up and wipe them out just shortly afterwards. So we'll be hoping for maybe not a repeat performance of that, but certainly for a compound that they can find some space to work into the zone. It's not an easy zone to find a position, as particularly if we look at the Western Coast Road, PMA setting up a very wide gauntlet run that Monkey are currently running, but Mr. Clay just can't quite get an angle through the window. But Ripper's just pulled up to do a bit of scouting, and Teddy up on the high ground is actually going to lose the aim battle against a 3x scope SLR. Oh man, Rip just got the better of him, and
he needs to get moving.
Yeah, Teddy is not a player who you see lose too many of those fights.
I was going to say he needed to keep moving because KMF1 could move down and do some damage, but it turns out that he actually falls right into his trap. Rain goes down, and Rip now needs to try and salvage this. KMF going to try and hit inside that vehicle, hopefully get his way uphill, but this is a very scrappy fight for both of these teams. As Rip moves away, it's Mr. Clay trying to get involved and finish off that player up the hill. I mean, Monkey have just worked themselves into a bit of a trap here. PMA have put themselves in such a position where even though Mr. Clay took shots, he wasn't able to connect, but the rest of his squad was so split, it almost appeared like a whole second team that Origami Orangutans were maybe a little bit more confident fighting.
Yeah, just the 1v1 for Rip went well, and Rain, he had the bike, so he had the mobility to get up there and secure the flush, but it's just the off angle wasn't quite prepared for it just down the road from Rip. They weren't quite ready for just how widely split PMA would be along that coastal road, and they might not be ready for this either, as they're going to come up directly into the compound occupied by Zizzy. Akita, oh, it's just too easy. A quick double headshot, no chance to fight back, couldn't even see the vehicle over the hood of that Murado popping up over the top, and Origami Orangutans, they picked up a point, but that's all they're going to really get from the early game so far. And, you know, we were talking about we need to see a little bit of momentum coming for OCE. It's not going to come from them, it seems, so far. So Team Bliss hoping that they can be the team to pick up the pieces.
I'm not too confident that's going to happen, though, because Bliss have just rotated out of Los Leones to get out of that position. They're backfilling. As soon as that zone popped, they did a 180. They're going to think this is free. Buram are happy to say it's not. Eddie is round on the other side of things. Mirage pulling in, just completely unaware. That should be a relatively easy kill point for him. But Mirage has seen the player, will be able to back away. And Bliss now need to plan things accordingly. Bryn actually pulls up in the vehicle, as it looks like Bliss still want to take control of this compound. But as Monty goes down to Y8, it's looking less and less likely. He's flushed out. Bliss down to just a 3-man. And well, it's all falling apart for the OCE boys so far.
That's just really unfortunate timing that Buram came in so late out from the zone. You saw them just lurking in the compound out to the field, just swapping loot around, just biding their time. And as soon as they rock up, Team Bliss makes a move to try and claim some space further into the zone, sees the zone shift back in their favor, and tried to go back to their initial compound, but it was already occupied, already taken. Jervis baited by the bike, but still lands the shot on Trick. That's the man who just dumpstered Canaxi in the game before. This time just couldn't make it work, but J-End from Icarus Cyber will take the third party with the flush for free. Sure, why not? Shen, this range with a 4x scope on the M4. Sure, why not? And well, from the future, really getting sat down up close and personal from SGD. Shen with a headshot forced to pull back into a more defensive position, but they're not picking up the kill points, getting third-partied and stolen left, right, and center. Hymas will be the beneficiary of the death of Teddy.
Man, just going to have to try and lay prone, keep the team in it right now. As from the future, that was not what they were expecting up ahead of them. Origami Orangutans also going up the hill in the vehicle rotation. So that's the theme all around right now. Archangel Predator looking to do the same as KMF is waiting, but can't land the spray. 7 bullets left and makes it count. Patrick goes down, but there's still going to be one more. 1 bullet left in the gun, but it's the nade that could ultimately be the final nail in the coffin for Archangel Predator. It doesn't get thrown. Mad Dog works his way down the hill as he gets caught from behind. It's Arena to find the knock there. Only, I believe, 1 player left from AAP now.
The distance on those shots is pretty significant. From Sapnix looking for the third party, and man, Origami Orangutans tried to make a bit of a send down the road, just face first into Theraton 5, and they will happily take those points. Quite well needed as well for T5. They've got a position just to the south of Buram, which is not very likely to end up getting a feed, so every point that they can get their hands on early game, they'll be more than happy to welcome into their fold. SGD still with the high ground pretty much towards the center of the zone. It's looking less and less likely that that fortress-type compound of Day Trade is getting a hard feed anytime soon, unless we see a big western shift on phase number 3. It does not seem particularly likely that that's going to be the case. So we'll see exactly where we end up going in just a couple of seconds.
Certainly will. You know what I love doing, Saga, is I love mentioning the Pick'em coupon until it's about to disappear off the screen, because then a load of people are going to tab back in and it's already going to be claimed. The circle, though, shifts off to the west this time, and wow, we always talk about the valleys, don't we, on Miramar, and how tough those rotations can be. I think that with a valley like this at the center of the zone, it's going to be tricky, especially when you look at squads like SGD, who are just posted up, ready to hold anyone out from the north and potentially anyone who comes across that road. But more importantly right now, it's Archangel Predator trying to remain in it with only 2 players, and PMA just working that flank, getting them surrounded for not the first time this game.
Like I said, it's unlikely to go hard back towards the west, but our map stream aficionados will tell you that Daytrade have already committed all 4 players into that very compound, maybe anticipating the northwest hard shift to come through and get rid of as much of those vertical cliff faces just to the south of this very engagement as possible on the Phase 4, the land ratio shift. Archangel Predator on Miramar so far has just been a battle in the early game. It's just constant. Left, right, and center. CJ with long-range shots. Oh, Levi is being pushed down, but CJ is being pushed on foot by KMF. Oh, he just goes to blow the door off and try and peek him. A jump peek through the window, just milliseconds away from landing, but Pete's grenade, inch perfect, and KMF not going to be given the runaround by CJ this time. And Archangel Predator eliminated. They had a good start to the day as a solo performance, but this time dropping out very early in our final game.
Really unfortunate as Buram try and avoid the same fate. They open up. Pong does the same on to New Generation. As Diane tries to get away from it safely, nades come through as Sheikzing will be the first to fall from Buram. That's actually from a third party, though, not from New Generation. As New Generation themselves get third party, this time by Pong, eliminating Young B and importantly flushing out Diane. It leaves only Neil left up to try and make something happen, but it just isn't working. Vanny is nowhere to be found, and look, it keeps the squad in it, but how many points can you really salvage with still 13 other teams remaining?
Remember the last time there was a straight 4v4 fight with nobody third-partying in an APAC event? No, me neither. This time it's just crazy. Every single time someone commits to a fight in the compound, and believe me, they will commit. We're seeing it here. Well, every time there's always a team ready to pounce and get some third-party. Opportunistic poachers is really the theme of APAC, but they're at on 5. They're not going to overcommit, and that's what we like to see. They're not going to go for the full rebreach onto a fight that is not yet finished. They're just going to pick up a kill point or 2 and then fall back and make a move into the zone of their own. See whether that's rewarded with the Phase 4 shift to come in right in just a couple of seconds. It's gone directly on top of SGD. Wow, that is a big northeastern shift. Of course, it's going to get rid of all of that verticality, but Daytrade were really hoping that it would go directly to them. Now they have to contend with the expendables to try and claim those dips, and they're still under potential fire from PMA up at the top of the hill.
I worry about SGD's position, though, because it feels like one of those compounds that we always see 3 or 4 different squads fighting over as the zone just slowly takes its way through. It's not one of those that we see early game fights. It's not one of those where we see end game fights. It's one of those where we just see mid game. So they do need to be careful about that, especially with now Genius and MSC rotating in the same way. But I don't think they'd have to worry. It's the southern teams that really have to be concerned here, like Cerberus, who are in the perfect position to hold players out, but with Vanny up at the top, they don't really have that high ground cover that they're looking for. E-Arena work their way up the hillside, more importantly, straight into PMA, who look to have set up yet another trap for a team to fall into.
I am Pete, rocking on the western side, giving the information over to KMF and Mr. Clay. They can get in range or get some grenades over. It could be very, very treacherous territory, but E-Arena, must be said, I've had a very solid performance as debutants out here in PCS 7. It's a similar situation to what T5 had in PCS 6, but a little bit sketchy maneuvers as well for Theraton 5. Speak of the devil, as they just make a full send in towards some dips alongside Cerberus, and New Generation as well will contribute, because of course we're going to be third partying, but grenades is all that it takes. Tycon with 3 kills onto T5, and Cerberus just continuing their streak of tyranny.
Sololzy tries to throw out a nade to find even more damage, and that's exactly what he does. Eddie going to be pinned inside of this shack as Hymus tries to thread the needle with the nade. Can it get through the window? It's just outside this time. The Molotov, though, well, that's dead on. Eddie's going to be out of it in no time as Duadra tries to turn things around, but it's just not happening. Van Yee also with the third party can't spot out Canaxi. Just a little bit too much cover, but Cerberus, they should be aware that these players have made a move, and now that Nordrum tries to regroup, he's going to be taken out as well. It's AT to shut that one down as New Generation fall. Cerberus finally don't have to worry about the third party from behind. Hymus hops out through the smoke, playing sneaky through it, hoping to catch Canaxi off guard, and honestly, with the way that both of these Buran players are looking, he might just be able to do that. Never mind, because Eddie takes down Hymus before being traded out from range by AT. Sololzy falls as well. Canaxi, the only player left from Buram, low HP, tries to keep him in it, but Tyken in the end spots him through the smoke and finishes off the job. It's Buram out in 12th, but you've got to think Cerberus are going to be getting third-partied as well as PMA going down.
PMA, the team that was looking to hold out E-Arena from that ridge line, is the team to be removed as well. 7 kills on the board for E-Arena. I tried to get a chance to praise them and say they've done really well on their debut so far. First day, 3rd place, and it looks like they're going to remain there right now with 37, potentially even overtaking SGD if they can outlast them, but given their position in the zone and SGD's position, maybe unlikely, but there is a lot of teams encroaching on SGD's territory right now. Icarus Cyber having Team Bliss creep up behind them into grenade range as well on the low ground. Could be treacherous turf for them, but Daytrade now finally going to commit to this push to remove the expendables from the dips that have been troubling them for a while. And the Molotov will spread just enough onto Ninja 2K. Daytrade with a 3K, and they will push forward. They will claim some low ground position for themselves, and the west side of the zone is entirely theirs.
There was a really interesting thing that Daytrade just did there. They threw down a flash to cause a distraction, and then it was actually the player from the opposite angle that peeked. Sophia, though, has to be cautious about how he peeks, realizing Genius are here. Now, a frag grenade would do a lot of damage in a position like this, but he only has so many. Needs to try and make them count. Simon swings out a little bit too wide, and he is going to be the first to get punished. Sophia, though, tries to go for the flush, and that's going to be to his detriment. Clory's maybe realizing now, hey, there's a hole in this roof. We need to try and back off. Sophia does the same. It's going to be Leo, though, from the backside as Sophia just continues that red zone till he's out of nade. Clory's trying to go for a bit of a high ground, maybe get an angle through the roof. It doesn't work out, though. Leo takes down one as SGD, even with 3 players, are coming out on top of this fight. MS Chambry, though, trying to move through, and it's Job Jab to take down Jervis early on. It's all onto Sophia and Leo, the 2 remaining players, but they are pinched as Genius continue to push in from the opposite side.
Well, if we can't say third party in APAC, I don't know where we can. E-Arena finally removed. Daytrade, the shots from range. Belmont to claim both of them. Genius Esports is a pretty genius tactical maneuver to just not be in that compound anymore. Going for the full disengage. Norins will punish Sophia with a headshot as he tries to just pick them off from range as they make a move. But look at Leo, he's just sending it towards them, and he's got grenades from MS Chamburi flying down the hillside as well. That's an aggressive bounce, but not quite far enough. Julio still lurking, watching over the top. Watchful eyes, making sure that SGD's exit from this compound is not an easy one. A Job Jab to the side to really make it difficult too.
MSC is just tearing this one apart. Down go SGD. They get themselves a placement point, couple kills out of it. Nothing to regret, as now they need to just hope that Daytrade don't close the gap, and more importantly, Cerberus don't extend it. Nades are coming out, and that seems to have bounced close, unfortunately. Not right just this time. Belmoth gets the flush onto Yuta, as he will be getting spotted out by Skeet instead. Nade ready to follow. He knows where Simon is, but it might have been cooked just a little bit too long. Yet again, not bouncing the way that MSC would have hoped, and therefore not really converting into any points. MSC need to get off this hillside relatively quickly to make it in, as Sololzy, even as a solo, takes down AT, and more nades looking to follow.
FAP is so incredibly low. That grenade lands directly on his feet as well. Sololzy Last Man Standing is doing so much damage to Icarus Cyber and Cerberus. You just can never count them out. It's not going to be 4 wins on the day, or maybe it is. Norins has just rescued him with a long-range MK shot onto J-End. There's still a lot of work to be done for Sololzy, but he's been given a lifeline, and Y8, he's just had his removed.
I have no idea how Sololzy's made it in here, but you know what? 7 kills for Cerberus and now making it into the top 6. Yet again, another dominant performance. Daytrade are doing everything they can to close that gap. Remember, this is a squad that made it into the endgame last match as well. Fortunately, unable to really clean it up in the way they would have hoped. Belmoth with more shots up the hill lands onto Skeet as he preps himself a grenade. Still decides not to throw it, realizing util is limited. I don't really know where this player down the other end of the hill is. Bliss on the southeast though, trying to make their entrance as MSC and From the Future get ready to hold them out.
No surprise whatsoever that Daytrade, while they leave Belmoth up on the northern end to lurk and hold off. Look at that clean little switcheroo on the taps to take down E-Arena earlier on, but they've left him up on the northern side. He's got a Groza now in the arsenal as well, but they've committed both Norins and Puchos down south because they know Sololzy is lurking on that side and they want him gone. They want a chance to try and catch up. Well, that's not going to come through for Man this time around. A Molotov through the window. Jobjab has been taken down from distance. Mirage, I'm sure, will be happy to see him still up and active this late on into the game, getting that damage in, and I'm sure there's a lot of OCE fans as well who are hoping that Team Bliss can round this one out. They need to have a successful push onto MS Chonburi and avoid the third-partying shots coming in, but Sololzy is up and on his feet. He's still putting the damage in. Bryn, you see him on the mini-map. Just those red circles of damage coming through, and of course Sololzy's going to convert it, but that's a big grenade from Mirage. Gets the knock on 2 of MS Chonburi and makes it a realistic possibility they can win this fight.
And this is the opening that Bliss really needed, getting themselves some opening knocks, but as Insight falls, it looks like the rest of the squad are to follow. 5th place for them. Just not getting the points that they are looking for. Bliss, it feels like recently there's been a change in strategy from one where they will go for kills and dominate the zone to we wait for the late game and hope the kills come with it. And it just seems that in this lobby on this day, it isn't working. I have seen them be able to chain it together, but now with day 1 over for them, it's a chance for them to reset, reanalyze things and see what needs to change. Keep OCE's hopes alive, because right now they are all but crushed, because 15th and 16th places not what they are looking for. Belmoth with the spray can't quite make it happen. Maybe the SLR has a bit more success, but surely Zest now is just going to fall to MSC, but seems they haven't spotted him.
Yeah, he's just rocked up and just lay down behind them, and they seem willing to accommodate for now, but I'm sure it won't last too long as soon as he starts poking holes in his hosts up on the high ground. Xiaoman, he seems to be aware that Zest is over on this side. He's looking for him, but he's not spotted him out just yet. He has found a best at the very least, so it gives him a bit more survivability. How is Sololzy still up and active? 700 damage on this man. Cerberus, you just can't get rid of them. And as much as Daytrade want to try, they've still got Norins and Puchos just watching for him. Finally, Zest will be cleaned up. Jowman with the peek up over the top. The 3XM4 close range coming out big for them. MSC, huge resurgence in terms of their points in the standings. This is what we were saying. They were very low down earlier on by the time we came into Miramar, but just a couple of good, solid games, and they're right back up in the mix.
Cerberus are nearly on double the points of 2nd place. They just need 2 more, and surely you think that with the angle that they potentially have onto Daytrade, they should be able to grab 1 or 2 more. Jowman still looking up from above, trying to find that opening, but Belmoth just jiggle peeking, making sure not to overexpose himself here. Same being said for both. Phase 8 gonna pop. This is technically our final zone of the circle, even if not our final phase. Shaman tries to spray through the smoke. I thought he was going to be able to pull it off, and he might just be able to with the zone closing in. It actually pulls down towards Sololzy, though, so he doesn't really have to change from his position. He can let Daytrade deal with MS Chonburi.
Really going to have to try and make something happen. He's just trying to make it over to the shack now for a little bit of More solid cover from up above, but MSC more than happy to just spam into the smokes. They've got ample ammo and plenty of bodies to loot for more. Up top, he will make it inside the shack itself and just keep his head down, but some grenades are going to fly in from range. It's just off target, not going to make it into the doorway, but there's more where it came from. Has to be very, very careful. Skeet is... everyone in the lobby wants Cerberus gone right now. They do not want to see them making it to the top 3, particularly as a solo, and one that's been doing so much damage as well. So Lolzy has been very active as a player who's the last man standing on his team.
Certainly has, and Daytrade have to be worried about that. You've got to think. The same being said for MSC is managed to just about make their way into zone. Remember, if we go to that phase 9, if in a minute this zone has not, you know, eliminated every other team, we do come down towards dot at the dead center for anyone who is maybe familiar with PUBG Esports, which ultimately, with the zone the way it is, will go the way of Daytrade and Sololzy. So it's MSC that have the real challenge ahead of them. You mentioned it, Saga. You sprayed through the door. You've got to think a nade is due to follow up shortly.
They've got a couple. Sololzy knows it's coming, but he doesn't have a smoke to block the line of sight for it. They're just really trying to blow the door off completely so they can just get grenades in there and flush him out from this position, because he's got 4 of his own. And if he can survive long enough, that both of these teams are going to have to start making a move down. Oh, he could do so much damage, particularly onto MS Chonburi. They've got smokes, but that's really it. As soon as the zone starts to creep forwards towards the center, it's on the side of the road of Sololzy, of Daytrade, and it's just a big, solid ridge that they have to make a move down. But if I'm MS Chonburi, I'm pretty happy just to let Daytrade push over there, get those Molotovs into the shack before you make the move. But no, they're going to go for it immediately. Full send down the vehicle, Apex style. And they're going to take that center zone.
But Jarman's just been caught with a massive flashbang. Sololzy actually opts to deny the points. I think that if he knew MSC were pushing through, it would have been a different decision. Julio has kind of resigned himself to going out right now to the zone as he tries to provide that fire support. It's just not going to be there. Skeet caught with a flashbang as Jarman tries to swing round wide, but Julio getting flushed out. Belmont throwing out the flashes. You've got to wonder how long can they really remain in it. And in the end, not too long after all, it's Daytrade getting themselves a chick in long time of waiting, moving themselves a considerable margin in that leaderboard, but ultimately it's Cerberus who steal the show again, getting into the late game and throwing that lead further.
Well, it's a classic Daytrade maneuver, slow and steady, controlled play style. It takes them a little while to get up into the swing of things, but once they're there, it is a lot of control. 11 kills on the board as well. 21 points in the final game of the day will be enough to creep them just above SGD in second place. And that would have... the fact that we even considered it a possibility that Cerberus could be double the points of second place after just 5 games is pretty wild. But they've at least denied that, but they've still got quite a long way to go to try and retain their championship and become the 3rd team in a row to win back-to-back PCS APAC championships. It's rough. It's a long journey ahead, 25 more games to go after this one, but they really need to start seeing Cerberus have a bit less success in the lobby if they want to make it a chance. But this is a big first step for Daytrade in looking to defend their title.
And a big thing to remember as well is that even the teams in the middle of the pack, it isn't too far of a stretch right now. Sure, it's not going to be easy, but if hypothetically going into tomorrow, the day after, Cerberus have 1 or 2 bad games to kick things off, that gap is quickly closed, specifically by Daytrade, but also SGD, Elite Arena, Esports. Elite Arena? EA, anyway. E-Arena. I was trying to throw in a word for the E, but no, E-Arena. But they're all in really good contention to go on and take this. Granted, Cerberus have a lead, but we've seen so many times in the past, Saga, how a team can start off day one well, and things just tend to slip apart after that. And I don't want to jinx it, but I feel like if Cerberus can keep up any form of consistency, they're locked into the top end of things and ultimately locked into PGC.
Yeah, I would very much agree. I don't see this form of Cerberus slipping. They've been firing so heavily on all cylinders for several months now. In the Vietnam series, they were, double the points of anyone else coming in and qualifying in first place again for like the 6th time that they've done that in their own national league. And getting really solid results in other third party like the SCA Invitational as well. I think it was actually the Expendables who walked away with the win in that one, but Cerberus a very close second. So they've really been on form for quite some time, and they've shown it here that form is really to be feared in a lobby like this.
Yeah, I know Cerberus in the SEA Invitational managed to win by a pretty considerable margin in the end. It was really impressive to watch. I think the key difference is that the Expendables weren't really hot dropping in that, so we're hoping to see a little bit of difference from them. If you look back at the Vietnam series, by the way, Expendables won by 123 points.
Yeah, it was huge.
It is 40 matches, so we can maybe read too much into that, but it's a considerable margin. This is the match leaderboard for last game, though. Obviously, Daytrade getting that chicken dinner, MSC getting 13 points, but Cerberus just getting up there again. Even MSC, who placed second, weren't able to get much of a lead over them or even start closing the gap. They just kind of kept things level pegging.
At the very least for MSC, it's better than their previous placements. 3 games outside of the top 8, 1 6th place with 6 points, and then to round it out with a 13-point game at the end is good to boost them up in the standings. But it's really been a game of two halves for Daytrade. While they did get a couple of top 8 positions on Erangel and a decent number of kills to go with it, their Miramar performance has been night and day, really. A 4th place in game number 4, and then to round it out with 11 kills and the win. Belmoth with 5 of the kills in the final game, putting that Groza to excellent use, and Norins with the MK as well. These guys are dangerous with any weapons, but when you put crate weapons in their hands, they are going to absolutely pepper every team in their surrounding area.
Certainly so. Cerberus with a pretty significant margin for lead right now. They can probably slip a game and still be safe, but going forward, Daytrade is still running in contention, very close behind. And look, as we go into tomorrow, you've got to remember that's going to be more Miramar heavy, so every team that maybe had their map choice today, things are going to be flipped on their head. I'm really disappointed by OCE, though, I'll be honest. All the way down at the bottom end of things, I want to see a different performance, and I know that a team like Bliss is capable of competing at this level. It just feels like it's maybe a strategy change that needs to be made for them, and maybe just finding the balance between, okay, we want to consistently make it to the end game, because obviously the placement points are now the tiebreaker. That's what we are aiming for, but you need to find those kills when you've got squads like Cerberus who have put up how many kills in this evening? 43 kills in 5 games. Playing placement is not viable compared to that. You have to get kills at this point, regardless of tiebreakers.
That's considering that Cerberus also had a 0-point game as well. So really in 4 games, they've got that many kills. But OCE, it's a very different style to the rest of APAC. We kind of draw more so from like the American style, quite a lot slower, very much less aggressive, and it has been a bit of a struggle to adapt this time around for Team Bliss, but we've seen them in similar positions where they have come back and had good performances. If I have to single out any team, I actually think that Theraton 5 has very much underperformed today. They're a team that, while this is only their 2nd appearance in a PCS APAC event, the previous one they came 2nd place all in all, and now they are the only Thai team to not be within the top 6 in teams. Bororam, who's been out for the past 2 events, is up in 5th place after slipping down a little bit somewhat on Miramar. Really good start on Erangel, which is a little bit backwards for their historical performance. But yeah, would like to see a little bit more out of Theraton 5 tomorrow. We've seen good individual moments, but we know that they're capable of so much more, and that's the case for quite a few of our teams. But realistically, there hasn't been much of an opportunity for anyone because Cerberus have been so dominant today. So hopefully we will start to see teams finding their groove as the series progresses. We've got 2 more sets of games this week and then another week to follow. So a big reset period in the middle for teams to really sit down and look at what went wrong and how they can improve.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. Unfortunately, though, we are going to have to wait because that is the end of PCS APAC for today. We're going to be back tomorrow. Remember, though, PCS Americas is going to be live in just about 8.5 hours, if I've done my caster math correct. So make sure to go and check that one out because it's going to be equally as exciting. Saga, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure. It's going to be Xenox and Elfish tomorrow, so good luck, guys. We'll see you all then, and we'll see you next week.